I'll save it. I'll save it. I'll
Yeah,
save it.
save the demonstration. I
Yeah.
can't
I'll
wait to see
save
it.
it.
It's
Okay.
gonna be
I'll
good.
save it.
Let me see.
It's gonna be good
I'll
because it
save
makes
it.
no sense in real time because you can't just like enter turn-based mode IRL, so it's not gonna make any sense when you do it. But I
Yeah,
can't
bro.
wait to see
I
it.
just go fucking. It's his turn. I can't move.
I can't.
No, wait. Okay. No, I'll talk about it later. I've been
Just stop.
abusing
Yeah,
something.
just
I've been
okay.
abusing
Let's switch the topic for now, so you can talk about something that isn't
it.
related
Oh,
to the podcast.
shoes.
Those shoes look like the 40-year-old shoes.
Bro, stop calling me old. I'm gonna kill myself.
You're basically. It's crazy too, because like you're basically older than I am. You've surpassed me in the stage of your life. You're closer to the deathbed than I am.
Bro, I'm pretty close to taking a nap right now too. What do you think about that? What's that?
Huh?
What's that?
What's what?
Sean did something.
I did do
I
something.
don't trust Sean.
Never.
You ever like before you get an ingrown nail, like you feel like your nail's starting to like, or like you're at the side of your finger like hurt a little bit, like it's sensitive touch,
Yeah.
and you just know it's gonna get a ingrown nail if you take care
So
of it, but you don't take care of it, and then later down the line,
why did you not do
and then later
anything?
down the line, you're just like, oh, why did I not do that? Ah, it hurts so bad. Ow, that's me right now.
You know, for being a medical professional, kind of slacking here. Well, that's not gonna fix. No, you can't fix it. Like that's so unsanitary, there, Mister.
If I blow on it. Oh, I'm so fucking cozy right now. Sean,
Yeah,
you can tell me anything
you're
and
gonna
I would
fucking-
agree to it.
You're gonna fucking fall asleep like that.
I
No,
don't
I'm
know.
not.
I don't know how I feel about that.
Dude, what do you think about Chef?
Yeah, let's do.
Bro, Longhorn makes raspberry lemonade. I'm pretty sure they put drugs in it. Amphetamines.
Raspberry lemonade's good.
That's so good. So is water. Ah. Bro,
What rank is Mike right now? Is he still E2?
no. He's diamond.
Is he?
I don't know.
He's E2. He's E2 50% win rate.
Is that good now? I don't understand. What's emerald compared to
Emerald,
old ranks?
if you think about it, when somebody says they're emerald, they're basically plat.
But what's plat then?
Plat's like high gold.
So plat's gold.
Yeah.
Emerald's plat.
Yeah.
Why didn't they just make emerald in between gold and plat?
Because they want emerald to be higher than plat.
Why?
Because they had a lot of people sitting at D4, and they didn't want to have a lot of people sitting at D4. So they added a rank below it so that it's harder for them to get to D4.
So then why don't you add a rank below plat and make plat harder to get?
I mean, you could have done that too, but like if I say platinum or emerald, which one sounds fancier?
I don't know.
Their thought was emerald sounds fancier, so they put it above plat.
Yeah, but now everyone's like, oh, emerald's just plat. Like, why don't you just keep it calling it plat then? Right.
Because platinum was too big.
No, you're not getting it.
I-
If you just say, if I say, oh, I'm emerald 2, and you say,
Yeah.
oh, it's basically plat,
Yeah.
why did they just keep plat?
Well, the reason why I say it's plat is because you said, is that good or not? So I gave you the best possible comparison that you
But you're
understand.
like, that's like plat, but there still is plat in the game.
Yes. Everything below diamond got shifted down. So that way diamond isn't as full.
Oh. Yeah, bro, there's some animals up in there, me included.
Because last season D4 was too big. So they said, let's put a rank right below diamond so that they have a further climb to go to get to D4. so
Yeah.
they don't have to worry about as much people getting there.
So is the top like so? If I do my placements right,
So like right
before,
now, I am
Ugh.
Mike at E2 is in the top 5% of players.
What are you?
Oh man.
I'm E1.
Oh, so you're better.
So
I'm
guys,
in the top 4% of players.
What's up, Sean?
I dropped the links down. We're streaming on YouTube because it's a quicker setup than me signing into my Twitch account.
That's
And then
big.
I don't have to VOD it. The VOD just goes right on up on the YouTube
There
channel.
you
It's
go.
great.
Easy, easy.
Some fun little things quick. I had to completely reset up the layout, which is why you heard a lot of scrolling. Because I was cropping
sense.
webcams.
That makes sense.
While setting it up, I actually put all three of us in the exact right spot without checking the previous VOD. First chat from Crucifix.
Yeah. Oh my god, is that Daddy Painless? I see that.
Wonderful.
Bro,
wonderful. Victor.
What's Victor's rank?
I think he's plat still. Did he get back
That's
to-
embarrassing, bro. Isn't that embarrassing?
Did he get back
Okay.
to... Maybe he got back
Like
to...
you're not Emerald, you're just horrible,
He said
right?
E1. E1, Jesus.
He's not E1. He's not. Who'd he pay to
I
get
mean,
E1?
does it really matter? He can't even Q ranked right now. He got he got fucking chat restricted. So he
He
has
got
to play
banned
five,
again?
He has to play 5 normal games before he can keep for rank now.
Wait, every time he logs on, or just in general?
Huh?
Like every
No,
time he
like-
logs
no,
on?
like before he can play. That's what the new chat restrictions do. Like when you get reported, they remove you from rank queue until you complete a certain number of normal games first.
That's actually
so he
so
got it
fucking
literally.
funny.
He got it literally the day that feature launched. He got kicked out of rank queue.
Like, all right, guys, we're gonna introduce this feature, Victor. I want to be the first to see this feature.
Okay. Well, enough league talk, or Dylan will fall asleep before we even
That's
get
true.
to discuss
That's
Baldur's
true.
Gate.
That's true.
What we're doing, we at some point knew we were going to talk about this. The wait was, I needed a PC that could run Baldur's Gate 3, and then one fell out of the sky into my lap. And I was able to play Baldur's Gate 3, and then I had to actually have time to play Baldur's Gate 3. So we decided the cutoff point that I needed to get to was end of Act 1, and then Painless went on vacation. So I'm at the end of Act 2. I'm not done with it yet,
Hey,
but
perfect.
I'm in places, baby.
You're almost as far as Dylan now.
No, he's in
Hey.
Act 3. he's
Bro.
in there.
Sean's gonna act like he never had any chance to play Baldur's Gate. Man is 100 hours into the game, by the way, and is just finishing Act 2.
I
Do not
am
act
level.
Like you'd have no opportunity
I'm at the
to
end
play
of
this
Act 2, and
game.
I am level 9.
You
I was
are
level 6 at the end of
100
Act 1.
I think you have more hours than me, and I'm farther than you.
What does that say? Also, some of that might be a little inflated. Some of that might be game time left on,
Yeah,
by
okay.
accident. But
Yeah, you could be like my friend who had it on and left it on in early access. It's now it says he has 1,900 hours in Baldur's Gate 3.
I didn't play early access, so that's something.
Gotcha.
I'm gonna check something on my end.
Don't yawn.
No yawning.
Sorry, sorry.
So
You're
your
just you're so fucking boring. Sorry.
Oh, right, yeah.
So for those who are worried about Baldur's Gate spoilers, we're not talking anything Act 3. Or we're gonna try really hard not to. We might, we'll give the heads up when we talk about a mechanic in Act 2 if we get to that conversation, because there is a mechanic I think I want to talk about, if we
Yep.
get there.
That's the one I'm thinking of. I hate it.
I like it, and then I also hate it, and there's a distinction between that. And then but there's absolutely going to be spoilers for Act 1 and mechanic spoilers, because that's kind of what we're talking about. There will probably be some things we'll have to give examples for. So we recommend you you either don't care about the spoilers for Act 1, or you beat Act 1 before getting upset at us for anything we say.
And you can beat it in like 20 hours. You don't have to do what Sean
Yeah,
did.
you don't have to do what I did. There are lots of people. I saw the Reddit post that was like, yeah, I got to Moonrise in Act 2, with at level 4. I'm having problems. I went, yeah, no fucking shit, you are. I got the Moonrise at level 8.
Yeah. And I bet you still had problems with how that combat plays out.
Not. Ironically, no.
Didn't you
nice.
say that like everyone died except Jahira?
Look, her and one Harper got out okay, but my whole team was perfectly
Like I'm
fine.
tired, but I'm pretty
None
sure
of
you
those-
literally just said before
none
we
of
joined
those
this that
characters-
everyone died.
None of
If
those
I was-
characters matter to me.
You should say that next time NPCs die to your DM. You should
Yeah.
say, "Oh well, I didn't really care about those NPCs that much."
Look, all the characters I care about are alive right now. That's the
Okay,
important
that's
thing.
good.
But we're
That's
not
good.
here to talk about that. We're here to talk about mechanics in Baldur's Gate 3, the game, how they compare to actually playing D&D 5th edition for the sake of it. And we're going to talk about stuff we like, stuff we don't like, stuff we're unsure of. I think there's an odd camp we're going to get into, which is absolutely a wonderful thing for Baldur's Gate 3. It is never going to touch my tabletop game ever because it works for a video game, not a tabletop game. What do we want to start? Do you want to start with jump and push? Jump and shove?
I want to start with shove.
You want to start with shove.
Same.
Okay, so for those who don't know, in Baldur's Gate 3, you can shove as a bonus action. What that lets you do is make an athletics check. What's the DC for it? Is it opposed?
It is a contested athletics check.
There we
yes.
go. Lets
That's
you
what
make
it's
a
totally
contested
does.
athletics check to push a character who is within your 5-foot range,
Mhm.
we'll say.
And the distance that you shove them is based on your strength score.
Yes, and there is obviously a determining factor it does about whether or not you are strong enough with your strength score to push certain characters.
Yep.
I imagine it also plays into weight and encumber, things
I
that
believe
that are
it is
great.
Calculated, I believe it is calculated actually based off of, I think it's like your carrying capacity without being encumbered.
Mhm.
I think is the weight they use to determine whether or not you can shove.
So what are
if it's something that you could pick
Yeah.
up and carry, you could shove it.
So what are general thoughts? I personally, I like shove as a bonus action with one small caveat. And I'll say it now because I had to restart an Act 2 fight because of this, and you might be able to figure out which one when I say it. In the video game,
Yeah.
if you roll low on initiative and a creature walks up to you and goes shove, and you are at the ledge of something, your character's dead. Your character's dead. They fall into the abyss chasm that exists in the game, and they're dead. That's the only caveat I have with it. It sucks when it happens to you. It's absolutely hilarious when you do it to just random goons you don't care about the loot for. Otherwise, I really like shove as a bonus action. That's my opening
have
stance.
Pretty much the same sentiment, because I think the big thing that it allows you to do is it allows, if you think about it, shove as a bonus action is only really going to be relevant as long as you don't have chasms, which I don't know any DMs just be like, oh, this area of the map, it's a chasm. If you fall in it, you die immediately.
Or final boss fight of the first campaign I played with him was that if you fell off that, you were dead.
But the nice thing is the fact that it makes low-level combat more interesting because you have more to do on your turn. And as you get to higher levels of combat, most things get bonus actions that are just going to be more useful than shove.
Yep.
So
That's
most
exactly
of the time,
how I
once
feel.
you don't have to worry about the 25 strength barbarian. I don't know how it got that high. What mistake did I make as a DM? But now I have to deal with it shoving my characters all around. Probably not gonna deal with that because first turn it's gonna rage. Second turn it's gonna frenzy bonus action attack. If it's that kind of it's gonna have something else it's gonna do at higher levels. So, but it is nice the fact that it gives something to lower level combat, and so that's why I liked it as well.
Dylan, are you taking a contrarian opinion? Do you hate shove as a bonus action?
No, I like it. My favorite first usage of shove was the null fight with the Flynn.
Mm-hmm.
And there's that little like rock area you go out to the right. That's like a little high ground.
Mhm.
And I would have my strength guy sit right there, and every time the Flynn got right up, I would just shove him back off the thing. Keep pushing him away.
I had this interaction because I played the game entirely different from everyone else I know. My first area I went to was the Druid Enclave. So I did that goblin fight pretty quick, and I went, "You're on top of that rock."
Yep.
and it just knocks them prone, takes up some of their movement, is nice. And yeah, exactly what Jake said. You just get so many other things. Like you're almost always gonna have a better option for bonus action, especially if your rogues are always using their bonus action for anything that's not shove. They don't need to shove. They can disengage. They don't care half the time.
Yeah.
It is also good though for casters if they have a high enough strength to be okay to maybe, if it's a weak enemy that's just on you and you have like a 50-50 and you're not using the bonus action, you might as well try to see if you can get out of that disadvantage for like a spell attack roll is the only other thing I ever find use for it late game.
The nice thing is the fact that it gives a little bit more attention to the stat that is represented the least in the game as well. Like in 5th edition tabletop, strength is the least represented stat in terms of just overall skill checks. And so it's nice that, like, hey, you get into combat, look at this, you can use your strength every turn for something. You can affect the combat in every way. And another thing is it prioritizes movement, you know?
Yep.
If you set down, like, difficult terrain somewhere, and then you have your barbarian run over and shove them into the middle of it again, well, now I don't have to deal with that guy hitting me, because he's going to spend 30 feet of movement to move 5 feet, and he's going to be stuck there.
Dylan just watched me do a fight where I had insect plague up on the field, and I both shoved and have repelling blast on an eldritch blast just enemies back into the insect plague. Same thing, really.
Yeah.
But it's nice because it also introduces it's a really easy way to introduce knockback mechanics to players who might not be familiar with it for stuff like Thunder Wave and repelling blast, which is nice. You get to understand it early right away. Downside to implementing it on a tabletop level, though, is that it's another thing your players have to remember they can do in their laundry list of actions. When you don't have the nice hotbar that tells you all the things you can do, as a player, it's like, oh yeah, I could have shoved, huh? Whoops. Like, technically, you can grapple. You can grapple in D&D as in action. You can attempt to grapple the opponent. What are you doing with that grapple? Very good question that I always ask myself when I read that rule in the book. But players don't think of that. It's the same thing where you can technically disarm. Like, there are lots of in-action things you can do in the 5th edition handbook that you don't know because you would rather be using your full multi-attack, or you're a spellcaster who does not care about those options.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, that's shove.
Dylan, do you want to talk about jump?
Glad we unanimously agree on
Love
shove.
jump.
Yeah, kick us off on jump.
Love and hate jump. Jump is cool. Jump is a bonus action, and which I like. I don't know actually what it is in 5e.
I think it's just part of move.
Jump is just considered part of movement.
I think it's just, yeah. So in Baldur's Gate, you need like a certain amount of movement to jump, and unfortunately, whenever I click my character to go somewhere with the intention to jump, I always use just a little too much movement. And you know, like in tabletop, when you do something, you're like, oh, I didn't mean to do it like that. Let me go do like a little click, like undo button. There is no undo button in Baldur's Gate unless you fucking go back to the previous save from 4 hours ago.
Yeah, well, you could just press F5 before you do every single action of the entire game.
I'm good. I like to lock myself in the poor decisions sometimes, or have to replay a good chunk of game because my last save was 40 minutes ago.
You also can click jump and then move it to an area outside of your normal movement, and it'll do its best to jump before it gets to the end of the movement. I get you.
Yeah.
Sometimes it is a little finicky.
Here is what we have. Here's what we have in 5th edition rulebook. Sorry, I just flipped past forced march and forgot that that's a thing we have in the handbook. So, special types of movement, jumping, your strength determines how far you can jump. Long jump, you can make a long jump. When you make a long jump, you cover a number of feet up to your strength score if you move at least 10 feet on foot immediately before the jump. So it requires you to use 10 foot of movement first and then make your jump. Mm-hmm. When you make a standing long jump, you can leap only half that distance. Either way, each foot you clear on the jump costs a foot of movement. This rule assumes that the height of your jump doesn't matter. At which point, then you can make acrobatics.
Yeah, and it is kind of nuts because just hearing that ruling in Baldur's Gate 3, you can jump so much farther than what that ruling would allow.
Yeah, it really gives you a lot of leniency, and then sometimes it does not. My party comp for most of this game has been my character, who's a warlock, Shadowheart, Karlach, and Asterion, which means that the amount of times I've gotten myself in a situation where Asterion is the only person who can't fucking jump to a location is incredible. So I've resorted to just handing him all my potions of glorious vaulting, and dealing with that, and everybody constantly has a scroll of Misty Step. But like I really like jump. It's important in Baldur's Gate because you will often wind up in a situation where it goes, no, you can't move through those characters. Why would you be able to move through them? You are stuck behind your allies. And unless you're going to go back to their turn and you still have extra movement left and you're going to move them so that you can get through, you got to jump. That was the reason why in Act 2, that fight went really poorly for all the AI NPCs, was because they were all in a straight line with each other and no one could move anywhere, and the enemies in that area have a lot of area of effect slowings.
Hunger of Hadar.
Yeah, and spoiler for Jaheira as a character, her AI for some odd reason decides that the most accurate play to make is to Ice Storm. Is that right? Is that the name of the spell?
Yep.
Is to Ice Storm, and then wild shape into a panther, and then jump into the ice.
Yeah.
That's not even the worst AI.
It's so funny, though.
AI in that fight specifically is really bad.
There's an AI in Act 3 that is 20 times worse. I can guarantee you that, Sean.
So here's something, I don't want to say too much about it. There is an event in Act 2 where if you fail to do something, you are forced... if you fail to do something, you are then forced into a combat that results in a lot of NPCs' deaths. And Jaheira fights in that one too. And all three of those fights, the first one you do, and then if you fail at the second one you get, and then the one later in the game, she uses Ice Storm and wild shapes into a panther. And it is... I've seen her do it every fight. It's hysterical. But back to jump. We also have high jump in the rulebook, which, when you make a high jump, you leap into the air a number of feet equal to 3 plus your strength modifier. If you move at least 10 feet on foot immediately before the jump, when you make a standing high jump, you can jump only half that distance. So this is... here's the first problem with the between the video game and tabletop, and we're gonna say this a lot, I feel like. When you automate movement and jump, it's very easy to know what you can do with it. When you read that to a player, their eyes gloss over and they're never gonna jump ever unless they're doing it as a thing that they think you're just gonna let them do. Dylan, how many times have you gotten I jump from your barbarians?
Yeah, they say just random shit, and I'm just like, I don't even know what jump does in 5e, so no. Like, no.
But yeah, I mean, it's a nice alternative movement option. And I think that it uses strength as a useful skill, which I'm all for. Woohoo, go strength, more uses for strength. But I do think it obviously, I think, would work better in tabletop as it's programmed in Baldur's Gate than it does in Baldur's Gate. Because like Pablo says, there's a lot of times where you can't precisely determine how much movement you're going to use to get to a spot. And then you're like, shoot, I need 10 meters and I only have 9.7 left. Dang it.
Or literally 9.9. Literally 9.9.
So in
better chug that. Hope you have a
like,
bonus action to chug that potion of speed.
In tabletop, the DM would be able to work with it a lot more because you would be able to be like, oh, you can get to here and then you can jump, and that's how much distance you can cover.
And you do have that benefit of unless you're playing with chess rules where you go, you touched your mini, you moved your mini, you're fucked. Stay there. Which maybe sometimes we should do that. But navigating jump is, I don't think, a time you have to worry about that.
I have one thing that I want to go back to what Sean said about like if you can't like walk through the characters, you have to jump, and it never looks right because like they're standing there. Two characters are standing there, right? And you're like, instead of walking through them, I'm gonna somehow jump over their shoulders. And I just like am imagining if like I'm just standing still and I just try to hurdle fucking Sean to get past him.
I think the only time I've ever run into that is even funnier because I'll run into it in doorways. Like my characters will be like caught in like an event or something. Like for example, when you try to like steal, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you have one person go up and start a dialogue, and then you're like, shoot, but I need to get past him, and now he's in the way of the door. So I'm just like, I'll just jump over him. And I see my character just phase through the wall above the door and just land on the other side. I'm
really
like, cool.
Interesting. Jump does not, and we'll talk about this mechanic, I'm sure, in a bit. Jump doesn't break hide, right? You can jump while hidden.
Mm-hmm.
That's a little silly, right? Like it is, you are hiding and you go, I'm gonna jump over here, and your character is very clearly gliding across the air, and the enemy's like, I don't know what that is. You jumped over my cone of vision. I didn't see. Fun fact.
Was a crazy stealth check.
Here's a slight spoiler. I'm going to talk about something in Act 2 in relation to Moonrise again real quick. When you get to Moonrise, before doing any like antagonistic combat, I actually got to the second floor without triggering the cutscene with the main antagonist because I featherfalled from the rafters and jumped through the doorway behind them and then went up and talked to people up there for a bit, and they were just like, yeah, what the fuck are you doing here? Which is a side effect I want to talk about with jump is that having jump be something you see frequently means that Featherfall becomes an immensely more useful spell. You're so much more aware of Featherfall's utility when you are making jumps more frequently and your areas are designed with jump in mind. Like, there are very clearly parts of Baldur's Gate 3 where they expect you or give you the option to jump to locations to get there. And with Featherfall, you can do some wild shit. You can go places you're probably not supposed to be.
That's one of the ways you can get to the Underdark. That's the quickest way you can get to the Underdark, is the fact that you can find that hole and you can just be like, oh, but what if I just Featherfall and then jump down it? Oh, look, I'm in the Underdark.
Or if you're speedrunning Gale and you cast jump and Featherfall on yourself and you jump 800 meters into a nice little area where you can blow yourself up.
Yeah.
Interesting.
You can complete the game in 10 minutes and 38 seconds.
Curious question, because I wouldn't know. How's the Gith's psionic jump? I asked this because, fun fact, viewers, I'm doing my first playthrough without Lae'zel.
It's pretty good, to be honest. Like, it functions. It basically functions as if you just drank an elixir of vaulting.
Okay.
It's pretty much the same exact distance and stuff. So, yep. Do we have anything else on jump? If not, I have a leeway to the next one.
Last thing I'll say, it also makes some of the like subclass options across the board feel better. It makes you not feel so bad about being like, yeah, I'll take this barbarian thing that boosts jump because that's interesting. And like you don't, when you're playing in person or online, but you're playing by the 5th edition rule set, anytime you see something that's like, oh, you get a bonus to jump, again, your eyes kind of glaze over and you're like, I'm never gonna use that. So it might as well be any other piece of utility ever, unless you're a monk, in which case then that's all you do is movement. Hey Dylan, you want to talk about Vinny's monk real quick and what we found out last session?
Monks are quick. Monks are
Dylan gave him ways to move even faster, so now he can move. What did they calculate while I was in the bathroom?
Oh, hasted, he can move 720 feet in a round.
Oh, that's fun for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So,
I guess one other thing is the other funny thing around jump, specifically with owlbears.
Yes.
I don't know
that
this.
that is the highest amount of damage recorded in a single instance.
Oh.
If an owlbear uses Crushing Flight, it does not take fall damage.
Oh,
However,
no.
it does multiply its damage because of weight, based on the distance it falls.
And if you stack a ton of crates up.
So if you stack a ton of crates up, which by the way, you can do freely in combat, you can just drop a crate down. It doesn't cost you anything, and then climb on them, and it costs you a negligible amount of movement.
So silly.
You can stack up, turn into an owlbear, and jump down, and the highest recorded damage amount was 22,873 to one enemy.
Wasn't it the Grimforge thing?
Yeah, it was against Grim.
Because he has vulnerability to bludgeoning.
Oh, okay. I was like, that makes sense.
Yeah, but it was very funny to watch.
So let's do a little game. I'm gonna raise a mechanic, and I want you to raise a mechanic, Jake, and we'll decide which one we want to talk about first. What was the thing you wanted to go into?
Prone.
Okay, I at some point want to talk about checking for traps. Which one do we want to talk about first? Prone?
Bro, I want to talk about prone.
Okay.
Prone? Okay, so
I forgot that was a mechanic.
My thing about prone in this game is I think the way that it's done in Baldur's Gate 3 makes a lot of spells way stronger than they need to be. Because of the fact that if you are on your turn and you go prone, that's it. Your turn ends automatically.
That's right. You lose
so,
your turn.
So Grease becomes insanely strong at all levels of the game because you could have a level 20 enemy slip on Grease and their turn's over.
It is the funniest thing. It is so funny to watch to watch a threatening character get up and go, what?
It does realistically make sense if you think about it. I still don't like it, but it does make sense where if you have a plan to do something and you fall down in the middle of your turn, it makes complete sense that you would not be able to get up and do your full action and everything within 6 seconds.
There is an element to prone that is available in the tabletop game that is missing in Baldur's Gate 3, which is the fact that at any point in time playing 5e, you can drop prone yourself. You can choose to dolphin dive, not literally, but you could choose to just go on the ground to gain the benefits of ranged attacks being at disadvantage against you. There's nothing saying you can't do that.
I don't think ranged attacks have disadvantage against prone targets in Baldur's Gate 3.
I think they do.
Do they?
I think they do. Because as someone who uses Asterion as with a longbow quite frequently, or a short bow, or hand crossbow, whatever's better I have, he loses sneak attack a lot of the time where he would have it because an enemy is prone, and range wise it cancels out. Whatever he has advantage on, it will cancel out.
The amount of times that I've been prone and somebody shot at me, and the amount of times that it's landed has made me think that it's not. That's also the fact I can't know for sure because I've never tried to shoot prone enemies because I just assume that it gets disadvantaged, so I don't even try. But
so
the amount of times that I've been hit while prone with ranged weapons is insane.
Okay, so here's some things about prone in Baldur's Gate 3. I didn't know this. It breaks concentration?
Yep.
That's insane!
It's very strong.
There are moments like Ice Knife, I didn't know made icy terrain. It's like you'll get hit by an ice knife. And
chromatic orb of the different elements.
True.
Drop its terrain. Yep.
I'll be playing and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna click over here, and all of a sudden I go and it just skips my turn and goes to the enemy, and the enemy fucking eye bites me and I'm dead. And I'm like, what? What happened?
I am wrong. It does not provoke. It does not give you disadvantage at a range attack. It will give you an advantage if you're within 3 meters of the target. Which is normal.
That's what I was saying. Because the amount of times that I've been hit with range attacks while prone, I'm like, bro, there's no way that they have disadvantage on me. I'm getting hit like every goddamn time. I'm like, oh, prone, and then they shoot me. 17 damage. Ow. 17 damage. Ow.
It also stops you from taking reactions, which is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But
it is one of the strongest forms of CC in Baldur's Gate 3.
Yeah,
and that is why I don't like it, because it is so easily able to be achieved.
Mm-hmm.
That's my problem.
I would never change how prone works in actual physical tabletop, because like it is something that can be punishing, but it's also something that like you can use to your advantage, and it isn't insanely busted. I mean, and that maybe is a difference here, is that because of this, though, it makes utility spells like Grease and anything that, creates a slippery surface, or, any kind of difficult terrain feel better to use as an option, which is probably intentional, I would say.
Especially when you do the sick combo of throw water on ground and then have the potion next to it throw ice knife or cone of cold or ice storm, and then you're like, the whole terrain is ice now, have fun. Meanwhile, you're wearing like the boots that you get from Nier that give you that make difficult terrain not affect you, and you're like, I'm skating around while everybody's falling prone and losing their action.
Let's before we go, I do eventually want to talk about checking for traps, because I have so many opinions about it. While we're on the subject of it, though, let's talk about hide. Man, dude, does hide work the same way it does in Baldur's Gate 3 as it does in tabletop? Because I use hide so much more often than I do in any tabletop game I've ever played.
I will say, I think that hide is broken in tabletop and nobody uses it.
Is that what we're learning?
Because of how stupid stealth checks work in tabletop because if you didn't know, stealth checks in Baldur's Gate 3 are nerfed compared to stealth checks in tabletop. But people only ever use stealth in tabletop to just not be seen by the enemy. They don't ever try anything while they're stealth, unless it's like stabbing.
Yeah, stealth's a skill you don't really see in combat.
So it's like, you could just like pickpocket them while you're stealth. Like, that's something that you could do, and as a DM, I would allow you to do in tabletop if you explained it to me in a way that makes sense. Don't just stealth like natural 20 and then just walk straight up to him and be like, okay, I want to pick his pocket. He can't see me. I rolled nat 20, but.
And there absolutely are some moments that are incredibly ridiculous. In Baldur's Gate 3 as a video game that you can manipulate with, like, slightly being out of field of vision and then just very clearly walking in front of a person, but their perception's too low to break your hide. Like, that is the part that I think is the difference between tabletop play, is one, if you lack very detailed maps, which is the benefit you get in Baldur's Gate 3. All the maps are detailed, there's all these different layouts, stuff that a DM would hate to do because it would take so much time, and I don't have that, most of them, that, like, you could take advantage of the environment. It makes me think, Dylan, about the fight we did in one of my campaigns where Tanner's character jumped inside of a statue because he was, like, inside of a big statue to hide in it. It backfired because the creature had advantage to destroy objects. But it was an interesting and really cool idea that he got purely off of my description of the environment and a visual of it. I'm trying to find the exact wording on hide.
Dylan, thoughts on hide in Baldur's Gate 3?
Hide is broken in tabletop. I will agree with that.
But
I think it is because I don't think it is because of the rolls necessarily. I think it's just because I don't consider the enemy's field of view. Like in Baldur's Gate, if you're not in the red, you don't gotta worry. You don't even have to be hiding.
Yeah.
If you're not in like the red field of view. But in tabletop, I'm not keeping track of that. I'm just like, roll a fucking check. I don't know, see how good you are.
Yeah.
If you roll anything below a 15, I'm like, oh yeah, you're loud as fuck, and everyone can hear you.
There's also this.
Below 15, you're like, he doesn't notice yet.
Well, like there'll be a guard standing right there, and he's like, oh yeah, 32, and I'm like, you're invisible. Like you're just standing there, and you have a lampshade over your head, like fucking Scooby Doo, and they can't see you.
There's also this idea that I think we do a lot as DMs, where if the party's traveling together, and one of your guys is in heavy armor and fails their stealth check, it gives away the whole party. I think for most of us, most of the time, unless the group specifies like, I'm going off a different way than to try not to also get myself But most players will just be like, oh, well, there goes the stealth attempt, gang. Time to go on in. Which, like, Baldur's Gate doesn't care about. One of your characters can get caught in field of view, and then start initiative, and then you can click on your other characters to the side, and then give them the advantage on their attack roll, which will eat their attack on their first turn when you go in, most times. Nice. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, cool, I can still get advantage. I'm trying to find...
I'm not punished because my paladin's wearing heavy armor.
Yeah.
Yippee. So would you say you're pro or against hide in Baldur's Gate 3 and how it works, Pablo?
I like it. It makes it more challenging. Like, you actually have to, like, maneuver, especially because you're not doing, like, turn-based, you know? Like, you're doing, like, in real time. So you're kind of, like, moving as if you're actually hiding from them. So it feels a lot more realistic than in tabletop, where it's like, all right, you moved a little bit. Now he's moving. Like, it's not... It's hard to sync it up.
I also like in Baldur's Gate 3 how they if you're near enemies and you hide, it actually shows like where the enemies last saw you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, have, like, if you go invisible,
that is really cool.
If you go invisible, it'll show you where you were, and the enemies will go to that location. It makes the AI look really dumb, but it makes sense. They go to that location, and they go, where? Because they don't know what else to do.
Yeah. Exactly. You're like, ha, you idiots. But it's like, yeah, I mean, that's what they do. They heard you there, they go there, and they're like, what the heck?
It makes much more sense than the occasional, this enemy's going to dash and then not move at all on their turn. Or this enemy's going to dash and run in a direction that makes no sense. But he's doing it. AI mapping. Something, like, I think it makes me want to play around more with different set pieces for my campaign, and where I'm like, yeah, I want to do more things where a player could, like, duck into the trees or go behind a couple of walls, and once you're around that corner, they don't know where you are technically, so if you want to hide, you could. I have a player who's playing a rogue who does take advantage of, like, the rogue suite of hide, disengage, dash very well. But that's because they need to do what they're doing as their character. Most other people won't. I like it. I like what it does in the game, and it makes me interested to see what it can do at my tables or as a character playing.
I definitely will, just based off of that, think more about enemy field of view.
Yeah, but also, reverse... You know, it's dangerous now because we can do this as DMs in, like, a very tactical battle.
Yep.
That we can keep that in mind.
Like the guy disappears into the bushes and you lose him.
Small pet peeve I want to bring up that upsets me. This is a change that kind of relates to hide because it involves invisibility. One of the changes that infuriates me so much, Warlocks miss the escape for Archfey. Turns you invisible, doesn't teleport you.
Yeah.
And if you turn invisible when you get hit with an attack, but it's part of a multi-attack, the multi-attack will go through if you do it on the first one. The second one will just still hit you. Which is a downside to not teleporting, because that's the whole idea, is you teleport out, you're no longer in danger, they don't know where you are.
They nerfed invisibility hard.
Yeah.
Which, to be fair, I can understand why, because if the greater invisibility was rules written off tabletop, you could cheese so much of the game based off of that. It's like, oh, I'm invisible, and no matter what I do, I'm invisible.
Do we have anything else in the suite of hide, prone, push, jump that we want to get out of the way before we move on to other stuff?
I'm trying to think if there's anything else.
There's a lot of status stuff that I have not interacted with well. I have not really, like, taken a look at MAME, or anything like that you can afflict additional stuff with. That's not really, like, even, like, heat and the electricity one, like, any of that stuff. I was
gonna save that for later as kind of like a blanket term of, like, synergies.
Yeah, I think we can talk about that later.
Yeah. I don't think that there's anything specific, because, like, I guess the one other one that I guess is, like, is also like an action bonus action thing that works differently from tabletop is help on a downed ally, putting them at 1.
Yeah. It's weird that it it's weird because it takes away like the whole reason you have the medicine skill outside of making potions. Which is also weird that has no play into alchemy stuff in the game, but that I know of. It's just like a purely knowledge check kind of thing, or wisdom check technically, but like purely for information you would make it. Yeah, I'm not really the big. It's so weird. Because help is usually used in physical game as bonus action help give someone advantage.
Yes.
I believe, right? Is it bonus action or is it action?
I believe it's an action.
I'm gonna see. I think you might be able to bonus action help in a particular instance. Might be what I'm thinking of, but I think normally it is.
Yeah. I like it when it's not in combat. I don't like it in combat.
Yeah, it's really great out of combat to just be like, oh, you're stuck in difficult terrain. Get out of there. You just
or like
the
fact that like when you finish the combat and like you have downed allies, it's like, oh, I can just help them because I'm about to short rest or something. So I just help them.
Spare the Dying's not in this game.
No, it's not.
Because there is no stable. You are either down and dying, making saves, or you're at 1 HP, which feels like a video game.
Well, there is stable.
Well, there's unconscious.
If you succeed the 3 saves, you're stable.
Okay, I've actually never had it happen to me because I never let it get
just,
that close.
You know how it has the little like, icon to show like the succeeds and fails. It basically just turns into a star, like a filled-in dot with a star, and that's just all it is. It just basically skips that person's turn in combat over and over until either they get up, they get healed, or they die.
It is an action. Yeah, so help in the base game reads aid another creature with completion of a task. You can take the help action to give them advantage on the next ability check to perform tasks that you are helping, which does not happen. That is not a thing Baldur's Gate 3 does. Instead, you just use your guidance. You just use your guidance fucking horse that you just carry around with you to cast guidance on every single check you do.
Your shadow heart.
We'll talk about that maybe at some point. It gets the next ability check it performs to perform the task you are helping with, provided it makes the check before the start of your next turn. Alternatively, you can aid a friendly creature in attacking a creature within 5 feet of you. You feint to distract the target, or in some other way team up, and they get advantage on the attack. Which that is where the help in physical game has absolutely nothing to do with picking a down player up. Because that's reserved for the medicine check, a medicine kit, stabilization, spare the dying, healing spell.
That's how I would kind of run it. Is I'd be like, oh, you can use the help action and give me a medicine check if the person is stable. The person is actively making throws. You can't. I don't really rule it that you can like medicine check. You can like maybe medicine check to like help them succeed 1 save, but like you can't just like medicine check and then they're stable now.
Yeah, I like
that's reserved for the cantrip.
I like the idea of taking the Baldur's Gate 3, a player is stuck, I'm gonna help them get back up or get out of it, because that's what you would do in the table. You would say, I'm gonna help them, and then the DM would probably give them advantage on the saving throw to get out, right?
Yep.
So yeah, I don't really know how I feel about that. It's just an interesting distinction between the two. It's probably one of the most different things from the rule book to Baldur's Gate 3 that we have.
Yeah.
Hey.
Dylan, thoughts?
Yeah, Dylan, anything?
I've never used help except for like if enemies are like, or if allies are like trapped. I did not know you could bring them to 1 HP.
Yep.
I had no idea you could do that.
Yep.
So that's really cool. Will I add that to my tabletop game? No.
Yeah.
Fuck you. Nope.
Use medicine.
Use medicine or cast a healing spell.
Yep.
Get good.
Take Spare the Dying. Be a Grave Domain. Does Grave Domain still let you cast it from afar, or has that gotten taken out?
It still does.
I think it's.
I think they
still, yeah.
nerfed it from 60 to 30 feet because that makes so much more sense. God, it was so busted.
I don't have anything else.
Hi,
That was my last one.
I do have another action economy, action bonus action thing, but before that, I want to talk about traps. I want to get it out of the way. I hate how Baldur's Gate 3 does checking for traps. I don't have a lot of I don't have a lot of 5e rulebook experience with checking for traps because a lot of my DMs don't really do that. I don't really do that too often. I imagine it's something you experience much more in module dungeon crawls.
Yes.
And I am
had
yeah,
a few of them.
and I would imagine you have players do what the game does, which is make a perception check as they approach an area to see if they catch if something's off first, or if they have a high passive, let them know. And then they go in to make the save. When you're playing, not Baldur's Gate 3. Normally, the player is then immediately alert for that hallway or that room about traps. As soon as they find one, they're like, I'm looking for everything.
I am going to do one thing different from now on in my games based around that fact. Because the moment you prompt them for a perception check, immediately everyone's going to be like, okay, well, can I make a perception check? Maybe we shouldn't even go down this hallway now because there's going to be like one thing that's going to do like 5 damage to me and I don't want to do it with it. So then we can go completely different. So what I'm going to do from now on, which is not what Baldur's Gate 3 does, but it's kind of similar. I will just set a DC to see if they see the trap or not, and I will just choose their passives unless specifically somebody says, I want to check for traps, in which case then I will give them the ability to actively do a perception check.
Yeah, there is something really goofy about having a character walk on the square that the game decides is when the perception check triggers, knowing that one of your other characters failing it and then going, well, yeah, okay, Shadowheart Guidance, the highest wisdom person in the party who didn't step forward next, hopefully will see the trap. What's really frustrating is that because Baldur's Gate 3 is a video game, traps are designed in a way in most of its dungeons, at least through Act 1. I'll mainly... It's in Act 2, too, but in Act 1 especially, there are a lot of dungeons that have traps. And you'll walk into a room, and it'll be like, this event here, 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 here. And then there are 4 gargoyles' heads, and all of them are all traps, because of course they're all traps. The room's trying to kill you. But the game makes you roll individual perceptions for every single one of them, and if you do not, and if you fail any of them, you just can't interact with it. Screw you if you know, because of the way the symmetry in the room is, that it has to be a trap.
If you notice, hey, this gargoyle head's trapped. Well, what do you think about the other 5 gargoyle heads? I didn't see for them, so it
must not be a trap. Which, to be fair, realistically, they might not be traps. But you would go, I feel like I should be able to interact with it, right? Like, you're like, I want to... Like, there is a particular crypt in Act 1 where you go in there, and it's that exact room setup, and on top of this, there's a gargoyle head you can't disarm. It's out of reach. You can't get to it.
Yeah, funny.
And it's the one right by the button that deactivates it if you set it off.
You know what the funny thing about that crypt is? The only trap that matters is the one that's on the sarcophagus. If you disarm that one, nothing else happens. So I think it's so funny because the first time I played through it, I went through on each one and I disarmed all the traps and then went to the sarcophagus and failed the disarm check and then nothing happened. And I said, this is the one that sets off all the...
What's the... You know what's the most frustrating room in the entire game for me so far in terms of traps? The bridge in Grimforge. Where you're walking across that bridge. There's a bridge you can go on your way to the path to the forge.
I know.
Where it's like, oh yeah, there's 17 traps on this bridge. Good luck. Hope you make all of them.
Because the fact that the gargoyle heads that breathe fire at you, or the gargoyle statues, they knock you back too. So there's the one part where you're like, oh, I want to get to this ladder.
I got that bridge.
Well, let me time it better. Okay.
I got that bridge perfect. I got every single trap on that bridge, and I'm so happy I did. But if I didn't, I would never stop complaining about it for the rest of my life. It would be the most frustrating thing on the planet for me. Yeah. It's just it's a little silly. It's not something I can compare too much to the actual tabletop, like I said, because Dylan and I don't really do traps that often.
I should do more traps.
I should do more mimics. I should do more traps.
You should do more mimics, and you should do non-chest mimics. That's a big one.
I told Dylan, there's a mimic in Act 2 that I think is really funny because it's not really a threat. It's just on its own in a room. It's just one of those, like, gotcha, idiot, it's a mimic. And it's like, yeah, that's what they're there for. That's the whole idea of a mimic. Much better than the 3 mimics, yeah.
Yeah, the Harper chest mimics.
Yeah, I did that out of order, where I found it first, and I went and I found the clue telling me about it. I'm like, yeah, I know, I already killed all the mimics.
I do like the fact that in Baldur's Gate 3, they have the mimics make it so they steal your weapon. That's a cool thing.
I haven't had that happen. I've gotten lucky to not have that happen.
Yeah, that was a cool one.
Fun fact about said crypt I was talking about, that crypt with those straps has a very important character in it. My first playthrough, because I chose to ignore that small section of the map, encountered Withers at my camp. He just showed up at my camp. Yeah. I then started an evil playthrough before I got to Act 2. I got to Act 2 then started an evil playthrough just to play around with it a little bit. And I did that right away, basically. And he pops out. I'm like, oh, that's what this is supposed to be. Because there's fucking nothing there if you do it afterwards. Yep. Mm-hmm. And you miss some of the important dialogue that gives you story-relevant information about Withers.
You do.
That's just a little side thing that I think. My experience with this game is so funny. It's so funny.
I think it's funny, too, the fact that, like, technically that crypt is the first, like, difficult check that you run into in the game.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because like most of the checks on the Nautiloid ship are like super easy because they're like, hey, you need this character, we're gonna give you this character because it's a story character. And you know, like this check or whatever, it's like DC 5 or whatever to like unlock this chest, or DC 10, or you can go get the key or whatever. But then you run into that door, and you're like, oh, let me lockpick this door with these thieves' tools I just found in this barrel. Wait, DC 20, what the heck? And so then, like how I've seen most people do is they're like, oh, okay, F5. Roll. Nope, didn't get it there. Load. Roll. Nope, didn't get there. Load. Roll. Okay, cool, I got it. Then they go in. They get past, the sarcophagus room. They disable the trap, or maybe they trigger it, whatever. They get to Withers' room, and the first thing they see is religion check. And I'm like, yo, religion check, yes! Because that check is notorious for nobody ever taking proficiency in.
My character hasn't. I've never made that check. I didn't save scum it. I'd never made it. And I didn't know. Here's something that we can talk about. I didn't know at that point in the game that on those area triggers, when they only trigger for one character when you walk up, if you swap to an AI party member and move them to that location, it triggers again. So you could do that on that religion check on the statue. In Act 2, there's a couple of documents you can check for. It's really often with like religion and arcana you can do it, where it's like, oh, this character interacted with an object, you can just have the other character go in and try it themselves, which again feels very scummy, like in terms of mechanics of the game.
It is something
that
happens in tabletop as well.
Yeah, Dylan, how many times
one person tries a check and they're like, oh,
it didn't work for me. How about I try it?
I linked up with this tablet and it shocked the shit out of me. Who wants a shot? Who wants to try it? Who wants to attune to the tablet that hurts you?
Yeah. And as DMs, we're always like, I don't like this, because then it's like there's 5 checks, somebody's gonna succeed the check. But really, and then so that's why it caught me so off guard when I got in Baldur's Gate, and it literally did it the same way. And I'm like, wow, this game is actually just like, they'll get it.
I want to back up. Probably one of the biggest things, in my opinion, one of the biggest mechanic changes from the handbook to the game is something that comes up in tabletop discussion all the fucking time because everybody forgets how it works. It's overly complicated, and it makes sense it's changed for Baldur's Gate 3 because as a video game, you want it to work the way you would expect it to. But it also breaks action economy and makes things a lot more powerful than they should be. And that's bonus action spells the same turn as action spells.
Oh, yeah.
In Rulebook, you are not allowed to cast a spell and a bonus action speed spell unless the spell you're casting is a cantrip. You cast a cantrip in any level bonus action spell you want. But you can't do a bonus action spell and a guiding bolt. There's your biggest example, because anyone who has a cleric in the party knows you can go guiding bolt, healing word, guiding bolt, healing word. It just clockwork. It really highlights why that's there on the in-person mechanic. Everybody still forgets it, though. You really got to keep an eye on it for them. They try to wiggle their way out of it all the time.
People will forget more now because that's how Baldur's Gate 3 works. And it's also a reason why in Baldur's Gate 3, spellcasters feel so strong as you get to like level 5, level 6, level 7. Because you're like, yo, I'm going to Misty Step and then just slow everything on the field. Haha.
Yeah, it's crazy with Misty Step to Misty Step and then cast a spell. I wish I could do that. I wish that was something I could do. That's one of the benefits. That's one of the reasons Archfey still gets in a not spell casted Misty Step that they can do. They get to do the bonus action Misty Step, but it's not treated as a spell, so you can still... But also, you're a warlock. If you Misty Step, just an Eldritch Blast anyway. So it's like... It's so interesting of a choice, but I get it.
Personally, I have been leaning more towards just letting players cast 2-leveled spells in my games, if both of them are action bonus action, because I'm like, most bonus action spells are utility. They're usually like movement or utility or something. Like, honestly, at the point that I'm at, I might just like be like, hey, I'm just gonna make True Strike and Blade Ward a bonus action, just so that people use the cantrips. Because if they're actions, nobody ever touches them.
Yeah, I mean, especially because True Strike can't be used on yourself. It's gotta be used on someone else. Yeah, I've thought about it. I've debated it. I'm like, maybe next campaign I'll try it. And then the one thing I think is I just gotta make combat more difficult if I do that, because they're just gonna steamroll stuff easier.
Okay, he's just charging his phone. I was getting worried.
He just decided.
No, get up.
No, you actually do have to get up. You actually might not move if you stay there.
You're gonna fall asleep.
Oh, he's already out. He's fucking gone. Oh, there he goes. Hey, Dylan, want to talk? What are your thoughts on bonus action?
I say let them do it.
They're gonna do it anyway. They're gonna forget
There's
anyway.
a reason that it says bonus action. There's a reason that it says action. If you want to cast Mass Healing Word and Mass Cure Wounds at the exact same time, I say go for it.
You know why I think it's like it, though? You know what I think, in my opinion, the reason is for it is because at Wizards of the Coast, they went, sorcerers are going to be too powerful if we let them quicken and then cast other spells with quicken. Like, you could quicken a fire. If they can cast 2 fireballs in a turn, we're in trouble, I think is how they viewed it. And you know what? Maybe that is the case, but I'm simply going to throw harder stuff at them then.
Yeah. Trust me, like, that's the thing, is like, if somebody is building a sorcerer because they know they can do that, they're power gaming. So I'm going to power game back at them.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay, yeah, you can cast multiple fireballs, and oh, look at that.
Hey,
my enemy's immune to fire.
Hey, fun fact about your sorcerer, you're a twig. Snap.
Oh, you're a sorcerer, that's crazy. Roll a perception check, real. Oh, nope.
What's your HP at level 1? Oh, 1. Oh, you have 1.
That's gonna be 47 damage. Oh, you're only level 4. You don't lift that.
Yeah.
Rogue sneak attack, kind of cool. But yeah. I like it.
Hey, Jake, Dylan, where's attunement?
That is something that I will never do.
Dylan,
Baldur's Gate 3 handles magic items. No shot. I'm the psychopath that lets my players have multiple legendary magic items in one game. And I won't even go that far.
I'm fine having non-attunable items. There just still needs to be attunable ones to separate how much bullshit you can have on you.
There's a point I'm at right now where I'll get new powerful items, and I literally won't change it because it changes so much of my character. I'm like, I won't know what to do. I'm like, I know what my guys do right now. We're gonna keep it that way.
Yep.
Yeah. Because of that, I got Shadow Heart's AC, resting AC, no spells active, to be 28. Because of how magic items work in Baldur's Gate 3.
Yeah.
And I looked at the number for like 3 minutes and I was like,
Never.
no. I'm like, you need to have like at least 3 spells active to get to this point. No.
Because you know what?
I'm like, you need to throw up shield. You need to have like Shield of Faith active. I'm like, you cannot attain this.
Because you know what the difference is? Helms. Any stat boosting items should always be attunement based. Almost always. There might be small reasons not to, but like real helms, not like funny hats. Those are fine unless they do something crazy. Any weapon, staff should be attunement. Maybe low level, like just regular +1s or +2s are fine not to be.
There's a really early hat that's a perfect example of that, where it is an uncommon item. And it is so much more powerful than its rarity gives it. If you have a bard, you get the hat from Alfira that says when you give somebody bardic inspiration, you also roll a d6 and they heal that much. And I'm like,
Yep.
That is so strong. I am just getting healing word for free.
And
I'm already going to give him bardic inspiration, but now I get healing word too.
It's weird that there's no bard companion in Baldur's Gate 3, and they hand you all this bard stuff. They know. No, it's just rings are fine not to be attuned unless they're crazy.
Hey Sean.
Yeah.
I take it that in your evil game you're not playing Dark Urge.
I am.
Oh, okay.
Part of me wishes I wasn't.
Did you not know that in the Dark Urge run you do get a bard companion?
Oh, I know. I've been made aware. Here's the thing. I'll say this. I wish I was doing a different character for my first evil playthrough, because the whole reason I did the evil playthrough is because I want to experience Minthara's story stuff. Despite all the things you lose in the process of it, I wanted to give it a shot and see. Part of me wishes I didn't do Dark Urge so that I could do a Dark Urge playthrough on my own where I just choose all the Dark Urge options and everyone fucking dies. Just everyone. There's no one alive by the end of it besides me. Maybe by the end of Dark Urge, maybe not even yourself's alive. I don't fucking know.
Yeah.
Like you see Gale and you're in Dark Urge. The first option you get is he goes, "Give me a hand," and you could just go, "Oh bam." I don't know if you know this. If you're playing Dark Urge and you romance Minthara, you go through the sex scene, and then you get a moment where the two of you are like, because you're still, if you're in Act 1 when it happens, you're in that little like temple chapel thing, which is so funny. That's where everyone goes to have sex. It's hilarious to me. And you're leaning against like against the altar, and she's resting her head on your shoulder. And it's just like, this isn't, and it narrates like, this is a nice moment of like vulnerability where it's just the two of you, no absolute, no gods, nothing. And then the first option is the Dark Urge option where it goes, snap her neck. And it is insane. It's absolutely
I didn't know
wild.
that because on every single one of my runs, both evil and not evil, I've killed Minthara.
Fair. Fair. Yeah, I'm interested to see. Fun fact, you don't get her at the end of Act 1 if you go evil and recruit her. You have to wait till Act 2.
You have to wait till, like, what, probably after
because it's the trade-off with, Halsin. You don't get Halsin in Act 1, which I think is why a lot of people think you just don't get him. Because they just don't keep following his story stuff until you actually get him.
Dude, my first playthrough, you make that promise to him to like help him with like his backstory conflict, with the Shadow Curse and everything. And I went to Act 2, and I got so caught up. I don't know how. By the way I went to Act 2 in my first run was like completely like screwed. I never found Last Light in.
What?
I just never saw it. I never ran into.
Where did you have a moon lantern?
Yeah.
That would do it. You don't need to go to Last Light if you have the moon lantern.
When you run into the Drider.
Oh, you just got that.
My group, I just stole his, and that was what I ran with. And I was like, bro, this part of my first run. By the way, that
you didn't trigger Did you go through
I
Mountain
hated-
Pass?
Yeah.
That's why. Because you don't.
Yeah.
If you go through Mountain Pass and not Underdark, you don't trigger the Harper encounter. Which you have to if you go through Underdark, which makes sense because Underdark you have a higher chance of not. You have a higher chance of not depending on what you do, you have a higher chance of not having any resource to get light, outside of torches.
That's why in my second run, I was like, oh, okay, I see what we were supposed to do. The Shadow Curse is not nearly as annoying. Because I'll tell you what, my first run, not having Last Light In and just having one Moon Lantern to cover my 4 people, every 10 seconds,
you didn't break
it would
the
enter
fairy.
turn-based mode.
You didn't break the fairy out.
One person would be too far away. Yeah, no, I didn't.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I kept that bitch in there. She said,
So-
let me out. I was like, 6.
My first run through, I was like, this mechanic in Act 2 sucks for a video game.
Let's talk about it. Let's talk about. Here's my stance on it. I like the Shadow Curse. I dislike the stronger version of it.
Yeah.
I think it rules that you can have a torch and manage light and have to stave that off as a mechanic surviving in a place corrupted by Shadowfell energy. That's cool. I think it sucks that if you have Shadowheart in your party, they're like, yeah, she doesn't need the light, but she also still can't go in the more intense area, 'cause fuck you. I think it would be cool if you could if you could find different ways to get around briefly, in the stronger one without making it feel like you're gonna get murked almost immediately if you try to make any progress without it. I actually think it's one of the mechanics that hurts the game's story even. I don't know how you're crazy.
Yeah,
I've done some crazy things.
My first run, it was one Moon Lantern, and I slowly made my way, and the first thing I ran into was Moonrise Tower.
Fair enough. You came from the mountain pasture right there.
Yep.
That makes
I ran
sense.
straight into Moonrise Tower, so I did, the whole, I'm gonna pretend to be a bad guy so I can get in here and stuff like that. And yeah, at one point, I just showed back up at Moonrise Tower after doing, the Ketheric Thorn, side quests and, going to get his relic and doing... I come back to Moonrise Tower, and there's just a bunch of Harpers there. And I'm like, oh, I guess we're just doing the good thing now. Okay, let's fight them.
Who the fuck are you people?
I was like, where did you guys come from?
Yeah, so...
And then I played through the game the second time, and I'm like, oh, there's a whole, sanctuary. Wow, isn't this cool? And they give you the oh my god, this is
they give you the blessing that still doesn't let you into the stronger area. You still need the moon, which is the silliest thing in my opinion, to make you this is my 2 biggest problems with the Shadow Curse, is that and spoilers because I'm going to talk about the beginning of Act 2 or the end of it or the middle of it depending on when you encounter it. When you get to Last Light In, everybody there is absolute. You're with the absolute. You're a true soul, but you're not with them. You can pretend to be a part of them. You should go talk to Isabel to get protection.
Yeah.
She gives you the exact same thing you already have if you carry a torch with you. And then Marcus shows up, and he's like, "I'm taking her with me," and the only thing that goes through my mind is, well, if I don't play along, it's gonna out that I'm not a true soul to the bad guys. So you should go along. It feels like you should go. It feels like the game is pushing you to side with Marcus. But if they take Isabel, bad things happen.
Oh, terrible things happen.
Yeah, do you know what happens if they take Isabel?
Yep.
Dylan, do you know?
I learned
Everyone
what happened
dies.
in a very weird way.
And yeah, quite literally everyone but Chihira. And maybe 3 other people, I think, get out of it. But none of them are important. All the important people are dead if you let that happen. And I legitimately, that was the first point in the game where I was like, I have to hard back up and change a major decision I've made. Because I'm like, no,
Which
I
think
don't
it's
want
funny. I think
that
it's
to
funny
happen.
That you thought about it like that.
Yeah.
Because when I was presented with it, in my first play, or in my second playthrough, I guess I should say, because my first playthrough, I never went to Last Light In. My second playthrough, I was presented with that option, and I was like, this guy wants to take Isabel. And I'm like, but if Isabel leaves, then I lose my blessing. Isabel's the good guy here. So I was like, I'll just kill him, and then he can't tell anyone anything. That was my first interpretation.
Yeah.
So I find it interesting that you thought about it in the complete reverse way.
Yeah, it just feels so weird, and it feels even weirder then to have it be like, okay, now that you've got the blessing from Isabel, you've protected her, go back out there and find how to get into the deeper area. But I quite literally spent a lot of the beginning of Act 2 going, I want to explore the map before I go to Moonrise, but the game kind of pushes you to go to... Dylan knows this, because we talked about it. The game pushes you to Moonrise, and I quite literally did the opposite. I did not go to Moonrise, so I wound up going to the Gauntlet of Shar, doing all of the Gauntlet of Shar, getting to the portal and going, I shouldn't go in there yet, and then backtracking and going, okay, now I should go through Moonrise and the House of Healing and everything else.
That's fair.
But it's like, to me, the Shadow Curse is a really cool environmental thing that Regular Handbook has stuff for. Like, it has, like, special environment stuff for Fae, for Shadowfell, for, like, Nine Hells, for really cold, really hot temperatures, and I think they're all really cool. But it is the important part about it is that as soon as you introduce a mechanic like that, you're either putting a clock on your players, or can make it feel very railroady, which I think is what the Shadow Curse winds up doing partially for part of Act 2.
And that is the reason why I don't like it, and I probably would never do something like that in my games, is because, one, if I present them with something like that, right, I can present it on like a lower level, sure, like where it's not as damaging, it's not as hurtful, sure, I'm cool with that. But if I present something on the level that the Shadow Curse is, one, I need to either A, give the players an immediate answer, in which case then I'm like,
Why'd
what
you
was
do
the
it?
point of it to begin with? Or B, I cut their ability to explore down by like 90%, and I'm like, I could just do that by being like, send an NPC in and be like, hey, we're going here because this is the next main story quest thing.
Yeah.
And then they just are like, oh, okay, I guess we'll follow this guy.
Like,
If I have to do all this work to like set up this environmental curse and everything like that, I'm like, this is like a boss fight type thing. This isn't like this just exists on the map while you explore around the map. And that's my problem.
Dylan,
I definitely think it's a neat concept, but I just don't like it.
Are lair actions in this game?
Mm-mm.
That's crazy, considering some of the things I know about Act 3. There are certain places I feel like they would really...
I do think that the game does a good job in Act 3 of substituting out lair actions for just extra mechanics in the lairs.
Fair enough.
Facts.
That really is what lair actions, kind of are.
It just
lair
is not
existing.
tied to the character, like the boss character.
Yeah, it's tied to the location.
There's a persistent effect that's going on here.
Yeah. Because I was going to say, like, Dylan and I have in person done, and I think you and I both done it with Heat. I think Heat's like our go-to, like, hot lava areas where it's like, okay, the longer you travel in here, the more likely you are to hit exhaustion. Because it's nice to occasionally make the players have to deal with exhaustion as a mechanic.
Mm-hmm.
Is it in Baldur's Gate 3?
Exhaustion? I don't think so.
Because it's like,
Hey, God.
imagine just not resting for the entire game and just racking. There's no time progression unless you rest, is the thing.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, this can segue into the next thing I kind of want to talk about. 2 short rests per long rest.
I hate how rests work in Baldur's Gate. I love the long rest mechanic of like, you generally have a pack of supplies among your whole crew, and you expend these supplies. You only have to worry about it when you long rest. You can set some arbitrary number as a DM and be like, I'm good with this number. That's cool. I love that. 2 short rests per long rest is just way too finite of a number and way too not flexible for how tabletop games work. That it's just like, if I ever tried to limit it to like 2 short rests per long rest, I'm like, my whole stories will get absolutely just screwed.
Yeah, it's interesting on a timetable thing. I feel like the reason it's here is to try to curb the power of the classes that get the resets on the short rests, while also making it so the player has to interact with the story beats that happen on long rests. Right? So, like, you can only do... The idea is, early game, you can only do so much before you kind of need a long rest. You've kind of burned through everything, and you're like, okay, I should really long rest now. It makes sense to do it. Um, Obviously, if you're at all engaged with the Baldur's Gate 3 community, you know that a lot of people have issues where certain, conversation triggers or event triggers won't happen because they keep getting pushed by other ones because they don't long rest enough, or they.
Yeah. My big problem with the short rest, long rest thing is like when you're in like what I like to call the red zones, right? Or like the danger zones. When you're in like enemy territory and it doesn't let you long rest, but you can short rest. You can get a decent way in there and, say you weren't like prepared to go in beforehand, like on your first playthrough, and you're like, oh, I'm going in here, and you're like, oh shoot, like that fight was pretty tough. I want a short rest. But you're at a short rest. It won't let you long rest. So you're like, I can't fast travel. So you're like, okay, now I gotta walk my way out of this zone, all the way out to long rest, just to walk all the way back in. When realistically, at a tabletop, I could just short rest right here.
Oh yeah, or short rest. I think some interesting things that I found in my playthrough. I use alchemy a lot. I use the alchemy feature a lot, which means I get a lot of the potions. I have a ton of healing potions. It's like one of my big stock up items I do whenever I go to any shop. And I'm a loot goblin, so I'll get all the items. I'll have Carlock carry them all, and I'll sell them all, and it will basically fund my potion.
Shopkeeper, take these 37 longs.
And I have to cry when I have to scroll to the bottom to get to the potions that they restock, and I have to just scroll through the 7 pages worth of incense I've sold because they sell for good money. But I find that in a way the game winds up working well with, okay, you can craft your potions. Here are the potions here are the elixirs that give you an extra spell slot. While you can only use one effect of those elixirs per day, I believe, or at a time.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, you're short on potions, so here's these you're short on, you don't have your short rest, you can't long rest, so here's, some resources you can still get pretty easily and frequently. The only time I felt it where I was like, oh, I'm getting close, is end of Act 2. But they put something, there is for story reasons, there is a mechanic that I will say, to keep things less spoiler, that is similar to at the start of the game where you have the Nautiloid pods.
Yep.
There's something like that in Act 2. That just gives you the full recovery. I can't tell you how much I went, oh, thank fucking God, there's one here. I'm like, because I was playing it, Dylan was watching me, I was like, I don't really want to kill these enemies, like, they're not aggro yet, but I, could kill them, but, I'm gonna have to go into that boss fight with, nothing if I keep doing this. And Dylan was like, just, regular attack. I'm like, but then that's HP I'm burning, and more potions I'm burning. Oh lord, my potion collection. What am I gonna do if I start running low on those?
If I don't have at least 30 potions, though, I'm griefing. I gotta keep my 30 potions.
Dude, let me tell you, me and my poisons are another story.
I like the elixir mechanic, kind of in relation to that. I do think that some of the elixirs are way stronger than they should be.
Yeah,
the elixir of bloodlust is broken.
Okay, other than that.
There's the one that increases your crit range.
Yeah, elixir of viciousness.
Yeah,
also
viciousness.
Way too strong.
I have those. I'm like, I should use those more often.
Yeah. I got to the point where my Asterion in one of my runs could crit on everything from 15 to 20. Between gear and the elixir of viciousness. I was like, I could not imagine DMing for this.
I think about it and I'm like I only really started using my potions of speed in some of the end of Act 2 stuff. I didn't feel the need to do it. There were just some times where I'm like, okay, I feel like I have to just to win the action economy compared to what I'm facing. Mm-hmm. There's a particular fight in Act 2 that was like I've actually had to reset this multiple times because just the RNG did not go my way, and I'm not going to be able to win this fight. Crevice. Concentration checks. Failing saving throws on a widespread damaging spell. And losing concentration when your cleric has Warcaster anyway. That fight, I was so mad that fight. I was mad. And then Dylan watched me do Dylan watched me do a major encounter in Moonrise where I went Flame Wall. Flame Wall.
Yeah.
I cheesed that
I
fight.
had to teach my friend just how strong Flame Wall is.
It's so broken.
That's a
Because
good
they were
spell.
like, dude, I like never cast this in Timberwall. I'm like, just you know what? You failed the fight last time. Start off the fight, have your paladin run forward, and then just put a flame wall behind him, and have your paladin just be the frontline guy while all your casters are safe. And he's like, okay, fine. He put it up, and then he watched like 5 of the AI just run into the flame wall and die. And I'm like,
Insect plague, insect plague, insect plague.
he's like, why did they do that? And I'm like, because when the AI, so if you didn't know this, when the AI calculates a hazard, it calculates the first instance of the hazard, it checks to see if it can survive, and then if it can, it'll attempt to move through that. If you didn't know, Firewall also puts fire hazard on the ground. So that is the first instance it checks, which you know does like 1d4 fire damage.
Yeah.
So it'll check it, and it'll be like, oh yeah, I live that, and it'll just run into the firewall, because it doesn't think that there could ever be a hazard that would do 2 instances of damage.
I wonder if that doesn't happen on Tactician.
It still does.
Oh, at least you get something. Kind of the last thing I really want to talk. I have on my list I have 2 things left we haven't talked about. One is high ground, low ground. I love high ground, low ground. It's cool. I'm gonna make use of that more. I think again, but that's one of the things that you benefit from having like very detailed encounter environments and maps and thinking about what you're working with, right? Like when a lot of your fights are just open field or like regular terrain, and you're just like doing it because like it just makes sense, like. It's so nice on yours and the player's brain if you go, yeah, you're in a pretty big open room for the fight. It makes sense. You want to fight in a pretty big open room. It makes your players feel really dumb when they still group up, but it doesn't make them feel as dumb as if they're in a hallway and you go to cold down a hallway at them.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's just one of those instances. The other thing I have on here, which I think is probably the last thing I want to talk about tonight, if we probably can have more discussions later on some certain stuff, closer intricacies on certain things. But inspiration.
Love it.
I
For
really like how inspiration works.
for inspiration,
Love.
it rocks. I think it's cool.
It's nice that it is 1, a party shared mechanic.
Yep.
2,
Yes.
it rewards the party for doing story specific stuff for one of the characters in the party.
Yep.
And 2, the fact that it is limited to the number of players in the party.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it's 4, by the way.
Yep.
You have 4 characters.
You have 4
in the party.
characters.
Yep.
I
I love
I
that,
know that.
and it is one of the most satisfying feelings, especially on your first run, when you go into your journal for the first time, check requests, and then you're like, oh, let me look at the rest of the menu, right? And you go to that menu, and you see this little thing that details your other characters, your NPCs and stuff like that. And it says, oh, I like doing this thing. And it's not like super specific about what you need to do to
No.
trigger them. It's just kind of like general like info. And then you do a random event, and you're like, and then you see the little inspiration pop up, and you're like, I like that. That tingled the part of my brain that felt really good.
Yes.
And then the bonus thing is the fact that because it's 1, a party shared mechanic, if you implement it in your tabletop games, you're now not only encouraging the player whose story is specific to that event to do that event, but you're encouraging the other players to also opt into doing that event because any of them can use the inspiration.
It is so cool that it's tied to background. I think it makes you want to have the background that feels important to the character. So my setup that I've been running with predominantly, like I said, is my character, who is based off my character I play in Dylan's campaign. So she's a noble. So her background's noble, and there's a lot of fun things that you get the inspiration for having the noble background. Shadowheart's an acolyte, Astarion's a charlatan, Karlach is what is it? Outrider? Something. It's the Outlander.
Yeah.
So it's like you get rewards for interacting with religion. The easiest and most fun thing to world build with is tied to Shadowheart, that the game basically throws at you like, keep her in your party. Just why not? She's a cleric. She's the first person you see. She can give you guidance every single time you need to make a roll. And except for when you can't.
It is funny too, the fact that Shadowheart is such a key NPC, and like
Yes.
almost every friend, every person I've seen play the game always has Shadowheart in their party. And then when I ask them why, she's the cleric. It's almost like it's an understood rule, like the
Yep.
party needs the cleric. And then you turn around and you look at the number of different, or the overall selection of classes made for custom characters, and cleric is the lowest played class. And I think that's so funny that you have these players that are like, I gotta have the cleric, and then they turn around and they never play the cleric.
No.
And I think that's just hilarious, because you literally see how impactful having a cleric is in your party all the time through the game. Every check, guidance.
Yep. Half
Half of the random checks you get for walking the room. History check, religion check, perception check. They're good at all of them.
The inspiration thing though, I love it because it's like in Act 1, you can go to the Owlbear Cave, and you can interact with the saloon ritual, and you'll get the Shadowheart inspiration because it's a religion thing. She fucking hates that you do it because it's inside saloon, but it encourages you to interact with different things. It builds the lore that is key and important to it, and it encourages you to maybe try some scenes you wouldn't normally think to do in the game. Like if you infiltrate the goblin camp, doing the Lovatar interaction with her follower, which you get the inspiration for it, you get a buff for it, which compared to some of the other deity buffs just fucking stays with you. And on top of that, if that wasn't enough, you get absolutely amazing dialogue from everyone in your party when you do that scene. It's so funny.
Dude, I think it's funny, like, for the same reason that you keep Shadowheart in your party because she's a cleric and she's just that utility useful, I think I will probably keep Asterion in my party as often as possible for the voice lines that he has during scenes. Where
He's so
he's
funny.
seeing this absolutely batshit psycho stuff happen that you're opting into because you're like, I'm curious what happens because you're a player of a game. This is a video game. And he is sitting there looking at you do this, and he's like, what the fuck are we doing here? Why are we doing? Are you insane?
In the same way, we could talk about the approve and disapprove mechanic, which is my favorite because it lets you know whenever Asterion's quietly being racist in the background. You choose any option related to any short character
Helping
race.
anyone.
Also
anyone too.
specifically gnomes. He's really bad with gnomes and halflings, where, like, if you do anything positive, like, you have Asterion's character, there are a lot of decisions where it's like, no, if you choose to keep someone enslaved, he gets upset. Reasonably so. But if you choose to free the gnomes in Act 1 who are enslaved, he's like, no, I fucking hate that. Why would you do it? They don't deserve it. Kick them in the lava. God, they're horrible. It's so funny. But, like, there's a lot of Karlach's are really cool. She's a barbarian. You're gonna want to do fights with her. A lot of her inspiration comes from challenging optional fights you don't necessarily have to, or exploring the physical environment it's just fun to go around with. She has one of the higher jumps because she's a barbarian by default, so she can explore certain places easier. Asterions is great because you just get it for bullshitting and lying to people, and it's hilarious as hell. One of my favorite things about the noble background is that one of your inspiration points is a lot of the noble is actually a really fitting thing to play as your character because a lot of the noble inspirations are for clearing story beats. Because it's like, oh, the people of the Grove consider you a hero. You followed through on your promise to Halsin. You've helped this child. And it's just like inspiration. And then it's also like, you've been given a title by the mushroom people. It's like, that's nobility for you.
Like 3 titles from them.
This title scales up as you do things.
You still only get the one inspiration.
Bitch. And the last one's like, the shit.
Dylan, that is the part of the game, by the way, that is the most you. I'm like, Dylan would have wrote this exact quest line where you go back and the guy's like,
cool as fuck now.
You are now the protector of the circle. You did more for us. You're now the light of the circle. You're now the fucking god.
You are the circle.
Take the circle with you.
Yeah.
It's,
I did find that Myconid quest is like one of my more fun ones too.
It's so
Especially
cool.
because of the fact that you take Sovereign Glut with you. You do the whole thing. You do the whole Durgar camp, and then Sovereign Glut's like, okay, let's go back and kill that guy. And you're like, what? I thought you were. He's like, no, fuck that guy. He came along, he took my thing, and I was just like, that guy called me like this really cool guy. Fuck you! I'm gonna kill you. He gave me a cool title. You didn't give me shit.
That whole quest line was super fun for me, Painless, because I went through, I cleared down through the Underdark and Grimforge, and then came back and did the Myconid stuff. So they were like, yeah, the Durgars need to go. And I'm like, yeah, I did that. And they're like, oh, base. And they're like, can you bring us Nir's head? And I'm like, oh, I'll just go back down and get it then. And he's already dead.
And
then you bring it back, and they're like, oh, shit. You're pretty good at this. Like, it was quite literally can you go kill those Durgars? And the dialogue options there where it's like, I've actually already done that. And they go, oh, you're fucking incredible, mate.
I also like the fact that quest, I think, had one of the coolest reward systems. It also had a very good reward for how much work you put into the quest. Because if you put that, I don't know, did you put the 3 pieces of the staff together?
Yes.
It's so good. It's such a good staff.
It's a really good staff for Act 1.
I think I got the parts in obviously I got the one from the spectator first, because it's where it's how you go there, unless you do a funky thing, but I didn't do that. I almost did. But and then I wound up, the last one I got was the one by the tree, which comparatively, that quest does not give you as good a reward as it probably should.
Nope.
Collect the bark. Go back to a location you really wouldn't think to trek back up to unless you're keeping track of your journal.
The only one that's worth it is make a greatsword that silences on hit.
But every other greatsword is so much better.
Offhand.
That's fair.
Yeah, that's the other one. It's like, what's the third option? Is it a sickle? Why the fuck would I make a sickle?
The masterwork weapons, by the way.
Yeah.
A sickle.
Oh, they sell for less than 100 gold to any merchant.
Talk it up
Crazy.
so much. They're like, go back and make the masterwork weapon, and you're like, the masterwork weapon? That sounds.
Wait, but
it doesn't even have a plus.
Why would I make?
One.
Why would I make this masterwork when I can go make an adamantium weapon down? Okay, well, to be fair, maybe I should just wander the under. Oh, what's this sword in the stone? Bleeds on it.
Bleeds on it. Oh my god.
Gets inspiration because it's religion based.
I can just bless my party by standing near them. This sword's insane. But another good magic item, the Staff of Arcane Blessing that you get really early on. That's just like, hey, your bless now is 2d4 on allies attacks.
More blessier.
Is that the arcane? Is that the one from the Arcane Tower?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did the Arcane Tower, didn't get it. No idea how I missed it. No idea what I didn't interact with. I swear I interacted with everything. I did. I swear I did. I read fucking everything. I don't know how I didn't get it.
You lie, son.
Just like, hey, Pablo, you're in Act 3, right?
Yeah.
Have you explored Sharess Caress? This is no spoilers for you, Sean. Don't worry. So you can listen in the whole time. Have you explored Sharess Caress yet?
Yes. Okay. Yes, I have.
Yeah.
That's
the strongest buff in the entire game is in Sharess Caress. Exactly.
Is that the place? Is that the place where you have to take the?
I'm not telling you. It's just it's in the building. Good luck.
Yes or no? Is that the place you have to take the monk amulet to? No, that's a different place, right?
Nope, different place.
Right. That's like Wyverns.
That's a temple.
Yeah.
It's a church. Yeah.
The
Temple of Ilmater, specifically.
Ooh.
You looking it up now?
Fuck you.
But what's
Sharess Caress has a buff, and the only thing I'll tell you about it is it's called Rapture, and it is, in my opinion, the strongest buff in the game.
There was one other thing I was gonna that popped into my brain. I'm trying to remember what it was. This game does so many subtle storytelling beats that I love. As someone who engages in media as like my primary thing, who does a lot of like analysis, foreshadowing, different things you can pick up on are so good in this game. And then some of it's really silly when you do it out of order. It's like, yeah.
Like I said, I'm on my third playthrough, and I'm still finding
Oh,
stuff
yeah.
that I didn't find in my first two.
The scariest thing for me about this game that I learned, not because I've done it, because I've seen people talk about it, is that I might legitimately play this game for the next 5 years because I can see myself doing a playthrough as all the Origin characters.
Same.
Because you get custom options for certain decisions you normally wouldn't get to make when they're just in your party because you are playing as them. So I'm really interested to see what it, like, one of the things that stand out is this interaction with Astarion and Moonrise, where you either have to strong arm him into it, which absolutely not doing. He's my bro now, or he just won't. You can leave it up to him and he won't. And I'm like, but if I play as, I can probably do it. And I'm interested to see where that goes. And I'm sure his Act 3 stuff has plenty of those moments.
His Act 3 is my second favorite story in the game.
Wait, I don't see it.
You don't see it?
No, I can't find it. Rapture's the buff you get from fucking, isn't it?
Rapture, you do not fuck.
Help.
You catch people fucking, which makes sense. You're in Shrez Caress. It's literally a brothel.
Help.
No, but we'll probably wind up coming back and talking about some more stuff.
Yeah, I would say the one other scary thing, Sean. Do you know that when mod support is fully online for Baldur's Gate 3, that people will be able to make custom stories?
Oh, I didn't need to know that.
That sounds lit.
Little clue that people figured out day one. You can install a mod, and if you install a certain number of mods that like interact with custom subclasses or custom dialogues or stuff like that, one of the error messages you'll get popped up is we cannot create a working story. It'll set to the default story, which means there's going to be fully custom story support when mod support is official for the game.
Oh boy. I'm excited because I have to imagine they're gonna flush out a handful of other things too as the release keeps going. Like, I have to imagine we're gonna get more incentive for the evil route because everyone talks about it. The trade-offs not great. You immediately lose 4 characters.
A lot of stuff around Minthara. They're fixing a lot of stuff around Minthara. That's their first thing that they're doing. Yeah, another thing is it's pretty well rumored that because obviously Larian Studios, what they like to do is they like to release digital deluxe editions of their own game with expanded content. And a lot of people really like those expanded content that they add. And they've talked about it in an interview that they didn't get it to a point where they felt like it was necessary to include in the base game. They do have the full upper city of Baldur's Gate in the game. And it's just not accessible. So there's a whole other section of Baldur's Gate 3 that they can just flip a switch on.
I don't know anything about Baldur's Gate as a setting for me to be able to answer that question. I have no fucking idea.
So the upper city, I believe, is where a lot of Baldur's Gate 2 takes place.
Okay.
So a lot of the stuff that people who played Baldur's Gate 2 will see callbacks to is in the upper city. So it's basically, it'll be really cool.
I learned offhandedly that Jaheira and Minsk I knew Minsk was, because when they did the trailer that revealed him, it was the big thing that he was coming back. Mm-hmm. But I didn't know Jaheira was also a previous Baldur's Gate character, which is...
Yep. There's also other previous Baldur's Gate characters you meet in Act 3.
Yes, that's my understanding, is that a lot of their stuff all ties to previous
Did you find it yet, Pablo?
No, I didn't look.
He's having a good time.
Okay, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
You know where you meet Raphael?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It's a couple doors away from that room.
Do you have to fight it?
There is an enemy that you fight, yeah. It's like a really easy fight though, because there's 4 of you and there's one enemy.
What's the hardest enemy?
A Mind Flayer. In
I'm
one
so
of the
confused.
rooms, there is a mind flayer. You fight it. You save the girl. You do a couple dialogue options specific, and you get the buff.
And the buff's broken.
Yeah. Do you want to know what the buff is?
Yeah.
It's a 1d6 to every d20 roll you make until a long rest.
Oh,
He's like, that's
That's
not
per-
that bad.
that's pretty
I think
broken.
that one's broken.
Oh,
That's
the
pretty rough.
the
Applies
other
to every saving throw. Applies to every attack roll. Every skill check.
the other buff that's insane is if you make all 3 saves, if you make all 3 checks, in the small little shrine to Shar, in Act 2,
Yeah.
because then you have +5 to all 3 mental traits.
Mm-hmm.
And that's wild.
It's very good. It's very good.
I do like that shrine punishes you for being a loot goblin. It's like, oh, you
Bro.
want that dagger? Die.
Every run, both my runs, or actually, I should say all 3 of my runs, even on my 3rd run now, because I'm past that point, all 3 of my runs, I have had Volo's, like, magic eye,
Yep.
which lets you see invisible things, and everybody else I've watched has done the gauntlet room, where you have the invisible path.
Yep.
And for them, they're just like, oh, it's just there, because I have the invisible eye thing. Every single time in my game, it never shows up. It doesn't work for me.
It was like 50-50 for me, where sometimes it would, sometimes it wouldn't. Here was my thing, though. Doing that room with your entire party is dumb. You shouldn't do it. You should take one
You just
person
do
and
it
walk
one.
across it. The person
Also-
you should have walk across it should be Shadowheart.
Quick question. Do you have to go to each of the the little
No.
island pedestal things before you go to the bottom, the last one?
No,
to
in
actually
fact,
get the thing?
I don't think you're supposed to touch that darkness on those pedestals at all. I think it.
You know what
it
the crazy
bops you
thing
back.
is? In my game, I had Karlak. I just cast the jump spell on her, and I just jumped her across the whole pit. And when she landed on the other side, she instantly died. And then I walked her to the 3 pedestals, and then she didn't die when she did it.
Neat. I don't know.
So I don't know what the heck is going on with my game in that room.
Well,
But-
I had it. Okay, this is the last thing I'll say. Again, more Gauntlet of Shar spoilers. Mechanics wise, the mirror trial.
Yeah.
The self trial. Is it that you can't even damage the other copies? Because I killed each copy with the right character, and I still got the debuffs at the end.
I believe it's that you can't target them. If they are targeted by anything that isn't them, right? Like if Shadowheart targets any of the clones that aren't Shadowheart with anything, if it's AoE, if it's like Fairy Fire even, I
But-
think it triggers.
Here's the problem. When I started that fight, maybe it's cut, and this could be interesting. When I initiated that fight by sneaking around the back and having Asterion sneak attack Karlak,
Mm-hmm.
she was the only person who didn't get the negative debuff. Was because I had her kill her copy, but Asterion had dealt damage to it, and he didn't get his negative debuff until you don't get the debuff until you kill the copy.
Yeah.
So I also have no idea how that fucking room works.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure every person has one room that they just don't understand.
Dylan's is the maze.
I watched one of my friends put the wrong book into the library room, and it worked still.
I beat that stealth trial without hiding. I just ran through it and they never found me. I ran through it with Shadowheart because I thought she had to do it. So I thought they weren't going after me because I was Shadowheart, but no, I just somehow just ran right up past all of them and they didn't fail me.
I took the whole party through, and I didn't ever grab the key in the middle of the room. I just lockpicked the door with Asterion, because it's not a high DC lockpick.
Yeah.
And then I went back through the area to get all the stuff I missed, and it was like, hey, there's a funny
Did you
wall
know-
here.
Did you know, by the way, that I'm pretty sure I found Larian forgot a wall
Oh no.
in the game, like forgot to program a wall. So you know in Act 2, in the Shadowlands, you know the altar that has the 3 plaques, and each of the plaques has like missing letters, and you have to read all the plaques
Yes.
to put together the message about Shar.
That's where you get down to get the blessing, yeah.
Wait, you go down?
Yeah, so what you do So what you do is you interact with the 3 plaques,
Yeah.
and the side that doesn't have a plaque, after you interact with them in the right order that you spell out the plaque, that wall drops, and it's a staircase that goes down.
Oh, that's neat. The wall never drops for me, but it lets me walk in it, and then my character gets stuck.
Well, that would be why.
That's why I was saying, I was like, they forgot a wall, because the wall has never dropped for me in all 3 of my games, and I can't do anything with it.
Yeah,
so I walk in, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure there's supposed to be something here.
Yeah, that's where Shard's Blessing is, where you can interact with each of them, and they give you the +5 to each mental stat.
Your long rest.
And then you can do a blood sacrifice with a ritual dagger, and you get a bunch of potions and scrolls. And if you take the dagger, it then spawns enemies that have over 100 HP.
Well, neat.
Yeah.
Maybe that'll work on maybe I'll uninstall and reinstall the game after I complete my 3rd run. I would like to experience that at some point.
I had a fun thing where I cleared the House of Healing and sent the loot to camp, and then could not figure out what I had to do in the House of Healing for a while until I looked it up and was like, what's going on? Someone was like, did you send the loot? Someone else had posted it, and someone was like, did you send the loot to camp? Because if you don't add it to your inventory, you send it to camp, it's gonna treat it like you didn't find it. I'm like, god damn it. I had to go back.
It's in your camp,
Yeah.
so duh.
It's in the abyss.
Also,
that fun little instance of a thing that is interesting. This was the thing I wanted to talk about that I thought was so cool, that was in my brain and then disappeared because we were talking about the Mage Tower. The anti-magic field flowers are so cool, and it is such a shame that you can't do anything with them outside of the Underdark because they wilt. And I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. It makes sense. Did you know if you send them to camp, because camp can technically be anywhere, if you send them to the chest in the camp, straight from the field, they will immediately wilt. But if you carry it in your inventory and go to camp, they actually stay active because you're still in the Underdark. But if you put it in the chest, even if you don't leave the Underdark, the game flags it as, well, that chest can be in every camp that's not in the Underdark, therefore it has to wilt right away. It's very funny.
Another funny thing that you can do is, I'm pretty sure, because I think I saw my friend do it like this. I'm pretty sure that you can take one of those, like if you walk it back to camp, and you have a chest in your chest, and you put the Susser Bloom in the chest that's in the chest, and then you pull that chest out, you have an anti-magic chest.
Oh.
That works anywhere.
Because it doesn't leave. That makes sense. No, I get that.
Now, if it breaks, the Susser Bloom immediately wilts. But
Yeah.
you can set the chest down next to somebody, and it turns off while they're...
Well, okay, so here's the thing. Again, this whole end of this episode is going to be spoiler content, so it's just off the hinge. I'm upset because I'm at the end of Act 2, and I can't access camp for a very good reason. But I still have sitting in my camp all the jars of brains from the first part of the game. When you're escaping, Nautiloid, the Nautiloid.
Yeah.
You can pick up all those jars of brain.
Them
I want to throw them in the machine,
yeah,
but I can't get them because they're in my camp. So I have all these extra brains in and I'm thinking to myself, I'm not done yet. I'm like, I feel like when I clear this, I'm not gonna be able to come back, and I'm not gonna be able to know what those brains are for. And I'm like, imagine what that dialogue is, and how many people have actually ever seen it, because you would have to know to take those jar of brains with you into the finale of the act.
I will say, as somebody who has completed the game multiple times, there's some pretty interesting stuff that they say. But I won't tell you what it is.
Hey, you know what pisses me off? Going through Moonrise and finding every single piece of correspondence between the main bad guy of Act 2 and fucking Gortash, and no character ever interacting or saying anything when you pick up any of it. And then you open the chest in Kethric's room and you pick up the letter from his wife, and everyone goes, oh, his wife wrote a letter to him. It's like, yeah, fucking comment about anything else. That's not important. She's gone. He's an asshole. We don't gotta worry about it. The game almost got me. The game almost got me where I was like, oh, we're just not gonna do a final fight at the end of Act 2? He's just gonna surrender? Like a piss baby?
I like the fact that I wish that they spaced them out more, but I like the fact that the mini bosses in Act 2, you can talk them into killing themselves.
They're really fun.
That's
All of
really
them.
cool. I do wish that they spaced them out more and that they weren't all in Act 2, because the first time you do it, you're like, holy shit, I just got that guy to kill himself. That's sick.
I
Because
didn't
the
even...
third one, by that time, and you're like,
Dude, I didn't even
Please
think...
get yourself. Please get yourself.
killed
You know,
himself.
you know what's crazy? Again, I spaced my quests, I spaced my traversal so much that I forgot about that because I went into the Toll House so early and then did the House of Healing so late
Yeah.
that I didn't
That's
even
funny.
think about that.
Mm-hmm.
Dylan had a funny interaction with one of the quests in Act 2. You were talking about how you wound up doing the fight with Nathaniel.
Oh yeah. Oh well, I wanted to mention this earlier. I think all of the problems in Act 2 is that little shit-stained kid's fault, and so
The
I didn't know
embodiment
about
of
this.
nature, yeah.
So you do this quest, right? And he's like, "Oh, look for my mom and dad, blah blah blah. Come and find me." And I'm like,
Yeah.
then his mom and dad attack me and his dog, and I'm like, "Oh fuck, kill him!" And then he's standing there, he's like, "Huh, I'll see you later," and I immediately fucking hit him with a mace.
I do like the fact that, like, the first time I interacted with that, he was like, you have to find me without my mom or dad or my dog finding you, right? And at the time, because I had already interacted with him once before and done hide and seek, I just moved the rest of my party away, had only Asterion there. I was like, Asterion, hide. And I literally got to him. I'm standing next to him. His parents and the dog have no idea where I am. And I'm like, I found you. And he just won't talk to you.
Yep. You
I'm
have
like,
to
I
have
beat
to
him.
let him move back into the house to then interact with him, and I also think you can't do it when you're hiding. So what I wound up doing was I wound up pickpocketing him and then finding out that the reward for doing it without fighting his parents is the item you can pickpocket of. I'm like, well then I don't fucking care. But Dylan attacked him. And do you want to tell Jake what happened when you attacked him?
So what I found out was if you attack him and you one hit him, because he only has like 28 hit points or something at first. If you attack him and kill him with the attack, quest's over. Halson's quest completely fails. Everything, Shadow Curse stays forever. But if you attack him and it doesn't kill him, he immediately teleports you to the altar, has 300 hit points, and you just start that fucking boss battle. You just skip everything. So that's happened. I did the hide and seek and I failed. And he's like, hey, I'll see you later. And I just fucking bitch slapped him with a mace. And then he's like, alright.
By the way, so that fight that you're talking about where he has like the shield around him,
Really
right?
cool
And
fight.
he periodically summons like more
Yep.
things. Was that fight hard for you guys?
No.
Okay, that fight was like the easiest fight in the game.
It's pretty
for me.
easy.
I was like, is this supposed to be impactful?
My first difficult fight, because I did not do the Defend the Grove in Act 1, my first difficult fight was Balthazar. That was the first fight I really struggled with.
I just got all my guys around him and we gangbanged him real quick.
I struggled with Balthazar for the same reason why you reloaded the first time.
Yeah.
The amount of times where I was like, okay, my dude is here, and then one of those big skeletons came along and went, see ya!
Mhm.
And I went, no, I'm not doing this fight where one of my characters is dead on the first round. I'm like, no, I'm not doing it.
But yeah, it's like, but like I had like Hypnotic Pattern, like the room, and then it's like, and then I also had I had stuff up on Shadowheart, and it's like, you got hit for 5 damage. Your concentration broke, despite the fact that you have Warcaster. I'm like, and then it's like, you've been crit 3 times. You've been cloud killed twice. And it's like, I'm done. I had a fight where he cloud killed on top of himself, and it killed Night Song. I failed the counter spell. It went off, and it killed killed Night Song.
That's hilarious.
And I went, I guess I'm reloading.
You want to know another coinky dink about my game that tells me it's broken? You know, so in the Balthazar fight, you know, where he's standing in the center next to Night Song at the start, and like all the skeletons come up and everything.
Mhm.
You know the shelf off to the left side,
Yes.
where it has the 2 skeleton archers and then like the arcanist.
The one
or whatever.
mage, yeah.
That back skeleton archer in my game, when it stands right there, or any other unit stands right there, untargetable.
Wait, what are you guys talking about?
When you go into the Shadowfell.
No, not the Shadowfell. Or is it in the Shadow? Yeah,
It
it is in
is.
the Shadowfell.
It's the
You're
Shadowfell
right.
portal at the end of the Gauntlet of Shar.
Yeah.
Okay,
You
okay.
killed Balthazar first, didn't you?
You killed him in the room, didn't you?
I walked into the room and immediately killed him.
Yeah.
Fair enough. If you
So you
weren't,
never-
Oh,
you
you're
never had this
ugly!
that fight is probably easier than the one you do in the
Oh
portal
yeah, I
because
murked him. That was easy.
he
Yeah.
he summons quite literally like 16 undead in that
I
fight.
had so before I
He
knew
cloud
that
kills.
spot was untargetable, I would try to target the skeleton archer, and it wouldn't let me target it. And I was like, whatever, right? Then this motherfucker with 3 HP left, Balthazar, Misty steps right onto that spot, and then dies,
You can't get anything
and I
off him.
can't interact with his body at all.
But
so
you
my
just-
game is just bricked.
Well, no, you can. Well, so here's the thing: you don't need anything he has. I believe. You should just be able to kill the rest of the enemies, and then talk to Night Song.
No, because he doesn't register as being dead. He's untargetable.
Can
So it
you?
says that the fight's still going on.
Can you area AOE like Thunder Wave his body?
Yeah, well, you can, yeah. That's what I ended up having to use an arrow of roaring thunder to launch his dead body off of the spot. So, and then right as it did, by the way, it didn't wait until it landed. As soon as it left that spot, it just triggered the Night Song cutscene. Like the fight was over, and I was
I
like,
had
"Oh."
He's just
I-
flying through the air. He's like, Night Song.
I had the game absolutely break on me. At one of one of the bigger fights. Because I actually think it might have been one of my Balthazar attempt fights. It was a fight where I was like, I'm gonna drop down Daylight. And then I had Daylight going, and the game did not like that, and enemies started disappearing, and things just didn't go well. It was something alright. But yeah, so Dylan, when you had that instance with Nathaniel, or Thaniel, whatever his fucking name is,
Well, Shadow Form's Oliver.
yeah, Oliver, did you not, you never did the stuff with Halsin defending the portal, either?
I did have holes. So here's where I fucked up in that quest line.
Yes, that's what I'm
Spoilers.
interested about.
Spoilers for this quest line.
Yes,
I didn't know there was
The
like
end of
a
this
monk
podcast
in
is
the
all
last
spoilers.
light in. There was a monk in the last
Yes.
light in you had to talk to.
Yeah.
It was like,
The dude on the bed who can't say anything.
which is
and
why
then
you go to
Yeah.
the House of Healing.
You find his like broken heart
Loot.
thing, and then you like his loot, and you fix it, and then he's like, "Oh my god, it's my loot!" And then he starts talking to you.
And then he's like,
Yeah,
but
no,
my friend...
I took his loot and I went, okay. And then I went and beat the shit out of Oliver. And then I fixed the portal for Halsin. And then I went to the House of Healing and killed all the fucking, made all of them kill themselves. And then I went back and he's still like, And I'm like, whatever. Halsin, I fixed it. And he's like, we need to fix this shadow curse. And
did
I'm
you-
like, Halsin, I fixed it.
So
I
what
fixed it,
happened?
Halsin."
What happened at the end of your fight with Oliver? Did you just kill him?
No. I was like, bro, stop being a bitch.
And then
He's
what?
like, all right.
And then what? Did he just disappear?
Alright.
Did he?
He's like, I'll ball out. I'll fucking recognize what I did wrong and shit.
Like, did you get like the okay? I'll go back and merge with.
Yeah,
But you didn't actually. But Halsin hadn't pulled him out of the portal yet.
correct.
That's like when I walked up. That's like when I walked
Correct.
up to
No,
the
I knew it
house.
was really weird.
Yeah.
And I never finished the quest because every time I go to talk to Halsey in his camp, he's like, man, Daniel still needs time to cure. I'm like,
You have to go talk to Thaniel in camp. You have to go find
Yes.
Thaniel in camp and
I
talk
talked
to him.
to him and he's just like, I
got no idea.
He's fucked up. He's
Yeah,
he's
you
not-
you definitely screwed that one up. I don't know
He's
how.
really, he's
Um,
really fucked up in the head. I don't know.
I had
It's just
I think it's because the flaming fist guy is still like fucking quadriplegic.
Maybe he's fucked up in the head because somebody came along and smacked him upside the head with a mace.
I'm not kidding. I stood there. Brian was watching me play. I literally stood there and went, "Yo, fuck this guy!" I just started beating the shit out of him.
So my interesting thing is, I didn't do any of the House of Healing stuff. I found his little house, did the game of, I found the little house, started to interact with it, and when you interact with him, one of the things that can happen is you can get the dialogue line to pop up where it's like, he seems familiar, and it's like, what the fuck does that mean? Like, if you haven't started that quest line, you have no reason to know anything about Thaniel.
Yeah.
You just know that Art singing about the name and about climbing trees and the good old days. And you get to that kid and it's like, and it's just like, I feel like I should know who he is. It's like, no,
this
I
fight
don't
looks
think
so
you should.
hard. Oh my god, there's so many fucking
the
undead.
Balthasar fight. Oh, it's horrible.
It's a tough fight.
This was a fight that he cloud kills. It's insane. You have to start where you're starting, unless you like Misty Step over or something.
His first thing, if you jump a marshal at him, the first thing he does is he casts haste on himself.
Yep. So what happens is you can attack him before engaging in that dialogue to get a little bit of damage, but the first attack you do, well then his first action will be to raise undead. As soon as he does that, you can counterspell it, but he'll then do it again, he'll still be hasted, and he'll still hit you with a Ray of Sickness in turn 1. It's insane how much he does. That was the fight that made me go, I have to use my potions of speed. I cannot keep up with him, and I have to immediately move Karlach onto his ass so that he cannot go anywhere.
Yeah. Yep. I ended up fighting him with Karlach in the middle of everything.
Yep.
Just 1v1ing him while all these skeletons were swinging at it from the backside. And all of my other characters were sitting on the little rock where they couldn't be touched because I didn't want them to get pushed off.
You're quite literally pincered on all sides. You can't AoE depending on where he goes because you don't want to hit Night Song.
Yeah, because Night Song's like super low.
Yeah, she has like 1 HP or something. It's dumb.
Yeah.
That fight's rough. Like the base, like the small zombies are nothing. Like they just Ray of Frost you, they do some damage.
I'm interested to see. So I don't know how I'm doing this, but I'm doing my like super hardcore run right now.
Yes.
Where I'm doing not just Tactician, but I installed a mod called Tactician Plus.
I have heard
of
this.
So the AI is more lethal. So they literally, if you get a character downed, they prioritize killing the character over hitting anyone that's up. They have 50% more HP. They have +2 to all their saves and their attack roll and their AC. And then there's like other like minor buffs and stuff they get. When I first loaded the mod, right, and I'm like starting the game and I'm on the Nautilus and stuff like that, it didn't hit me how much harder the fights that I already thought were hard on Tactician. Because my first run I did normal, my second run I did Tactician, and then this run I'm doing this, whatever you want to call this.
Tactician plus.
The first fight that I realized, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna have to like min-max my character builds to like get through this game and not lose my head over some of these fights, was when I walked out and I saw Commander Zalk on the Nautiloid, and he's standing there with 20 AC and 300 HP, and I'm level 1, and I said, uh-oh.
You better run.
I said, uh-oh. And I said, Everburn Blade's not that strong anyway. I don't need that. I'm just...
Yeah, I didn't get it on my first playthrough because the Mind Flayer got crit, and I was like, well, we ain't winning that fight, boys. We're out of here.
By the way, some other funny numbers that I've run into so far. The Spider Matriarch had 295 HP in my run. What was the other one? The Ogre Lump had 195 HP.
You reminded me of something.
I didn't fight him, but yeah.
You reminded me of something. So I started my Evil Dark Urge playthrough.
Okay.
Have you guys done the dialogue conversation where you talk to the priestess in the goblin camp and you let her treat you.
Yeah.
Where she gives you the potion of sleep and you get locked in the cell.
Yep.
That scene's interesting because you get
Mhm.
saved by a character who I don't even know if I have the context yet to know who that is. Who I think has reappeared in my actual playthrough in Act 2. Where they, I think, popped out and went, it's dangerous here, and then fucked off. I think they were the same character, but I'm not sure.
I'm trying to recall because I did that in my first game. I'm trying to recall who it is.
I don't
I
even
don't
know.
think I
'Cause
don't
all
think I
they
had
say-
the character come save me because I think I
Broke the chains?
out, like
If you
immediately.
don't, they pop in, and they quite literally, like, snap the neck of the goblin leader, of the goblin priestess, and fucking just destroy the ogre in the room as well.
Oh my god.
And free you. And when they do it, they pop through a magic portal. They come out and they go, my master doesn't want you here right now. Free you, and then they leave. So I have like characters in my brain. I think it could be tied to, but I don't think I've gotten there yet. And I think I might be wrong. I think the character shows up again in in Act 2 when you first enter by the toll house. And you're like heading towards the graveyard between the masonry and the and they like pop in and they're like, it's very dangerous here, and then disappear. But I don't know.
I know who you're talking about.
I think they're the same character, but I'm not sure.
Yes.
I'm very interested in that. There's a lot of things that only being in Act 2 that I don't have.
I'll hype it up even more for you. You ready? That character is involved in my favorite boss fight in the entire game.
Fun.
Both from a systemic standpoint and how the boss fight works, as well as the orchestral theme that goes along with it.
Ooh, I'm very excited.
So,
but yeah, we've talked a lot. We've spoiled a good chunk at the end of this podcast. I'm gonna have to like put a timestamp in.
I can't wait to talk to you about Act 3.
Yeah, well, we'll do more. There's more things to talk about, like spell scrolls and item combos and random things they have available for you to do that are weird. We could probably wind up talking about like more obscure interactions or quest lines that we maybe will have time to experience. I'm trying to think. Yeah, but
Dylan's over here just like reading something.
he's still watching the Balthazar fight, trying to figure out how on earth you do that.
Bro, someone just shoved him off the edge and just instant ended the fight.
Sure, but you have to get to him. Did it kill all the other zombies? Because when I killed him in the fight, I still had to kill everything else.
Like while he's in dialogue, you just switch to another character and push him off the edge.
You know what? That would do it. You know.
Yeah.
You know, I think I still have his bell for his undead golem.
Nice.
I don't know if I can even use that. I don't know.
You can only use it in the act you get it.
Yo, I'm gonna
Same thing with
I'm gonna use that in the final fight and see if he shows up.
The ogre horn.
The ogre horn, which I only got on my evil playthrough.
Yeah,
I
you can
didn't
only
roll
use
high
it in
enough.
Act 1, so
Yeah.
you should use it if you can.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
where
by
I'm
the
gonna-
way, on my tactician run, the portal thing, the portal quest with Helson, in that fight,
sucks.
the portal quest lived on 1 HP. portal
Woo!
did.
Hey,
I was like, oh, this is easy. I set up my guys in like line of defense. I'm like, nothing gets past me. And then like seven dudes walked out and they were like, I have a crossbow.
Yep.
And I was like, that's not fair. You can't shoot the portal.
yeah, that was the first thing that was the first enemy action in that fight where I went, oh god damn it. I'm actually wrong. I don't think the Balthazar fight was the first hard fight for me. I think the first hard fight for me was the gnolls outside the shipment.
The gnolls, dude.
If you're not
Flynn?
ready and you don't approach that fight in the right way,
When Flynn walked up to you the first time, I'll say that me and Pablo definitely had an advantage on this because we could do that fight in early access. So we knew what. But the first time I experienced that fight in early access, and Flynn walked up to one of my characters and went, "Bop, 37 damage." I went,
Mm-hmm.
Level
"What?"
2, baby. Level 2.
It's like,
Yeah.
whoa, man.
Yeah, that was definitely one of the harder fights for me. And then outside of that, yeah, I can't really think of anything that was too difficult.
By the way, do you want to know how much health he had in Tactician Plus mode?
No.
212.
17. Oh.
He was a 212 HP Knoll. Act 1.
I'm trying to
Good.
think.
Another little funny thing. You know the GIF that are standing there at the
sorry.
outpost before you go to.
That fight
Go ahead.
fucking sucks too.
Yeah, that does.
If you do it with the commander there.
Yeah. You want to know a funny thing about the commander? So if you take Shadowheart and you sneak her around on your own to the backside of that fight where they can't see you,
Mhm.
and you get just in range to cast one funny level 1 spell, and you go command drop,
Oh, yeah.
you can get a legendary weapon in Act 1.
Is it like a 9% chance, though?
Oh, I mean, you can get it. You can buff it like higher with like other stuff. But yeah,
Yeah.
but you can do that and then run in, pick it up, and then just let them kill Shadowheart, and then go back to your other characters and be like, okay, let's go back to camp and revive Shadowheart, and then you're like, cool, I have this legendary weapon.
Yeah. So what happened? So I want to explain this, and then we'll probably call it. So what happened to me in my first playthrough was I didn't find the area. I ignored Gale sticking out of the wall for a while, and I didn't find where Lae'zel was. And if you don't free her, she frees herself. And then if you do a long rest, she moves to, I think, Joaquin's Rest, but that might not. I think that might have been an early access thing. I don't know if she still does now. If you don't find her there and you trigger the cutscene with the Gits at the mountain pass, she will run in. If you then don't immediately deal with that, if you spend too much time walking away elsewhere, if you rest, it will just result in them killing her. The reason I had trouble with it and I walked away is because I was doing that sequence trying to figure out how to get through it, not finding a way that I could not find a path that made sense to me to not get into the combat. And I was like, well, I just have to get stronger. I'll come back later. And when I came back, she was dead, and my game wouldn't let me revive her, with Withers.
Correct.
Which apparently I think you are supposed to be able to do, but I'm not sure. It's weird. That's something I would have to look into more. On my evil playthrough, I had Lae'zel with me. And on my original playthrough, I played a character who is respectful of my allies, and thus I let Lae'zel do all the talking. That's a mistake. As my Dark Urge character, I went, shut the fuck up, let me handle this, you're a little bitch boy. And immediately he was like, I respect it, and he leaves. And he fucking yeets out. I'm like, oh, now the fight's fucking doable. And then, of course, Lae'zel looks at you and is like, that was hot. That whole set of interactions is so funny.
You know the ranger that you run across as you approach them the first time? Who's
Yes.
like, no, I'm out of here, and stuff like that.
Yeah, who the fuck, where did they go?
You'd ever found them again?
I don't think so.
At the Githyanki Crash.
Oh, because my playthrough where I ran into them on the mountain pass, I did not. I ran into them outside the mountain pass. I did not go through the mountain pass. I have not done that yet. That is an area I have not played because on my current playthrough, I decided I'm not gonna go back in Act 2 to it, and I'm not gonna really engage with it because I don't have Lae'zel and I don't really care about the Gith stuff. Like I have some stuff for it, but I just don't.
Yeah.
I'm just like,
Well,
I'll just do it
don't
on
worry.
a different playthrough.
Don't worry. You don't have to worry about saving her or anything. She can't not be dead. So.
Yeah, there's a couple of characters like that, and it kind of sucks.
Yeah.
Last thing, again, all spoilers from here, as we've been. I think it kind of sucks that you can't save Arabella's parents. I get that that's the whole point of it. Withers basically go, yeah, they were fucking doomed to die, girl. And it's like, damn.
I want Alfira in my party.
But if you do that, she gets taken away from her girlfriend, her very clearly gay girlfriend.
I don't care. I want her in my party. Also, another thing that I found out that's completely fucked my current run, and I'm bummed about it, but I'm gonna keep going anyway. Because I'm way too far past to recover this. Did you know I have done everything for the tieflings except the fact that I made the gruesome mistake. I never talked to Damon. So he's just not at Last Light Inn. He's just gone forever.
Well, he's actually an issue. He's actually the source of a bug, with the previous patch and the current patch. In the previous patch, if you killed the ox in Act 1, he would be dead when you got there in Act 2, at Last Light. In the new patch, if you don't kill the ox in Act 1, there is a chance he will immediately be dead in Act 2 when you do get there. So they fixed it one way, but fucked it up the other.
I got to Last Light Inn, and I progressed a decent way past the Emerald Grove part in Act 1, right? I was traversing through the Githyanki Crest and stuff like that, and I was like, oh shoot, I never did the first dialogue with Karlach to get the first Infernal Iron in with Damon. That's okay, I'll find him at Last Light Inn and we can do it there. I get to Last Light Inn, I would start walking over to the forge, and I'm like, he's not here. I'm like, do I need to go save him? Because there's the quest to go save Zevlor and them.
Yeah.
And stuff. Maybe he's captured somewhere.
No.
Nope, he's just not there. I'm like,
well,
I have all the other tieflings.
That's
of them.
That's the problem with if you mess up the Isabel thing, is that you lose him in that interaction. So if you haven't done the Karlach stuff, you are locked out of that quest. It's one of the few quests where you get hard locked out of.
I'm locked out.
Yeah.
The moment I escorted the tieflings out of Emerald Grove and had never talked to Damon, that quest line was over for me for the rest of the game.
I've not done the escort yet. I've done
the
murder them.
The worst part about that is I had planned in this run to get the achievement to save all the tieflings, to keep all the tieflings alive. Because there's an achievement on Steam for the game where you keep all the tieflings alive through the whole game.
Oh.
And I can't do it because Damon is dead.
Are there not some that are guaranteed to die?
They don't count.
Okay, they don't count. The ones you can save.
It's all the ones you meet at Emerald Grove. If it's a tiefling that you meet at Emerald Grove, you can save them.
Which means you also have to make sure you stop the bugbear.
Yes.
Because that is one where if you spend too much time not doing it...
Yep, it just kills that one.
It'll just kill her.
Yeah, you're out of the quest. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of major things you have to be careful of. You have to make sure you go save Roland too. That you go find him, because I imagine he will die if you don't. I'm not sure though.
He does. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So, I'm looking forward to doing that quest on my 4th campaign.
And you would need to make sure that you don't let any of them die in the prison break.
Yeah. There's also 2 more tests that you have at the start of Act 3 that you need to get them through.
Fun, man. These poor fucking tieflings, dude.
These tieflings get shit on.
All they want is a new home.
I feel so bad for them too, because I know the shit they went through in the fucking Descent into Avernus module that was written. That's literally the precursor to this game.
Yep.
Man, they just do not have a good life at all anyway.
Don't say anything about it yet, but Dylan was saying he never found Mole. So...
You never found Mole? Well, can't wait till you run your next playthrough of the game and try to save all the tieflings.
Well, I rescued Zevlor and Dylan goes, kill him, he's evil. And then everybody in the call started going, kill Shadowheart, she's evil. Kill Karlach, she's evil.
Pablo, without spoiling, I do want to get quickly your thoughts, because I'm curious. Because you haven't, never mind. You don't know either. You haven't beaten the game. I think there is one of the coolest mechanics in the last fight of the game.
Oh.
In terms of the big payoff for all the work you did across all the stories. Such a cool mechanic in the last fight of the game.
Damn.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm curious, Pablo, have you done my favorite fight, which I can only describe without spoiling as getting the Orphic Hammer.
No,
Okay.
that is on the bucket list. That is my last fight before the last fight.
That is my favorite fight.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, guys, we've talked a lot longer
Yep.
than I think we planned to, and we kind of went a little off the rails, but that's what we do here.
We stayed on topic for a pretty good while.
Yeah,
which I was
we
impressed with.
we generally spend the first like hour and a half talking properly, and then we screw around for the last hour and a half, or give or take, and
We
that's
kept Pablo awake this whole time too.
oh
know.
he's been
Um,
he's been eyeing that bed the whole time.
Yeah.
So, but this VOD will be up right away. So if anyone missed it or couldn't stick to the whole thing, we can send it to them, have them check them out, see what they think the thoughts are, and then make sure they know that like at the halfway point we start spoiling the shit out of Act 1 and 2. Whoops. But yeah, I'm sure there will be more stuff that we'll talk about.
Yep.
With that, have a good night, guys.